12 seconds left in this one as it goes from Dvorsky to the far wing. Over to Lindstein. They get it up ice. It's deflected in. 3 seconds left. That'll do it. Bring out the Zamboni. 6th shutout of the season for Joel Hofer. He's second in the National Hockey League in that department, behind Ilya Sorokin, Snuggerud, Stenberg, and Cairo. All the goal scores and a 3-0 win here on home ice tonight.
We're really doing this again?
No, they're 8 points out still. Can't catch them.
I know, but they're playing better. Like, I had fun watching that game last night.
Yeah, it's fun, man.
That was a fun brand of hockey.
Would you rather
honestly,
watch the first couple of months?
No, but that's the problem. Why did we have to watch that?
Oh, wow. I got an answer for that for you, big boy.
I just, first of all, if this team could get its you-know-what together in overtime, they would be in a playoff spot most likely right now.
You know, well, they do have the first tiebreaker in terms of the first the wild card spot.
Started.
26 regulation wins.
They've been honestly really good for more than a month now. It's been 5 weeks of just playing good hockey. And it doesn't really matter who they go up against. They play against bad teams. They look like the better team. They play against the good teams, and they are right there with them. I don't get it. I don't understand why it took so long again for them to do this and for them to show up. But I'm with you, Alex. When I'm watching the game, just in the moment, I allow myself to get kind of swept away with it all, right? And last night I felt that way, where I'm watching it and you see Robert Thomas sticking up for himself. You see Otto Stenberg trying. He's doing everything he can, man.
He did his best.
Jimmy Snuggerud going after. I don't know if that's the guy you want to go after, but doing it nonetheless.
I think he thought that was somebody else, and then when he looked up, he's like, oh, crap.
But it's fun, and they got a shutout last night, and Joel Hofer has been amazing for 4 months. And that top line looks like the Shin Holloway line from a year ago.
Better.
I don't really know what to do with any of this because they're not making the playoffs. There's no run coming like it did last year. Right now, they're still picking 5th overall, so it hasn't even screwed up their draft odds, really.
That's about to happen, by the way.
What do you do with all of this, Alex?
I mean, look, to me, 3 words come to mind when you ask the question, are we really doing this again? How are we doing this? Why are they doing this now and didn't do this early on? One is health, and I know people will say, you're making excuses, Ferrario. Thomas, Holloway, and Snuggerud are healthy. And that line is now a plus 44 since the Olympic break with 42 points. Like, you got a top line, and they're healthy, and they're playing like a top line. Second is confidence. I think the defense is playing more confidently than where they were before, and it's no coincidence a guy like Logan Mailloux is eating 20-plus minutes a night. He's playing top 4 for you, where before you had Justin Falk in that spot. And I think Logan Mailloux is a better defenseman in terms of how they play in their own end than what Justin Falk was.
It's wild.
And then third is goaltending. I mean,
I would put that 1, but I get it.
Sure. I'm in no particular order here, Brandon.
Okay.
But goaltending is what got it done for you. In October, Joel Hofer had a .793 save percentage, and I think it was 3 starts. Jim Montgomery said last night afterwards that, like, the way he started the season where he gave up 6 goals.
Jim Montgomery?
You have it?
Here's Jim Montgomery on his goaltender and how he was able to make it through everything. I did find this cut. I think it's in our folder, T-Bone, for today.
Tanner's not happy about it.
The incredible part about what he's doing this year is, you know, those 2 starts he had at home early in the year. Like, for a lot of people, that sets you back the whole season. But he's so mentally tough and so driven, and his self-belief is so strong that he overcomes a lot. And that's why you see him, like, when he starts to smell a shutout, he really fights and closes it out. Like, there wasn't one play, even though there was a lot of screens and stuff, where it looked like was even close to going in tonight. You know, that save in the first period on the back door on the power play, our penalty kill, was outstanding.
I mean, that's it, in my opinion. Like, what Joel Hofer has been able to do, he went from a .793 save percentage, which was the worst in the National Hockey League, to a .921 save percentage from November 1st up until now, which is the 2nd best in the NHL. And he did that with a team that was still playing bad in front of him for a couple of months. So, like, I think all 3 of those things aligned is what you were getting from the post-Olympic break. And again, I know people will say, well, why don't you get that early on? I wish I had the answer for that. I mean, goaltending is very up and down, and I think a guy like Joe Hofer was figuring out what it means to be a number one guy, and he really wasn't the number one guy early on, and now he's kind of taken on that workload. Defensively, Logan Mailloux is not who he was at the beginning of the season. Now you've got confidence, and you're playing and given responsibility, and you've got a top line, and they finally found it. So I think that's the three reasons why. The frustrating part is what you guys said. Why isn't it there for an entire season? And the even more frustrating part is don't buy into it because this will not carry over to next season as we saw this season.
So I brought up the overtime thing. You want to get real frustrated?
Yeah.
I've already discussed this, man. You can't hurt me.
Blues are 3-11 in overtime this year.
Hey, you know what? It's not the worst. The LA Kings are the worst team in overtime.
They are 10-18. I believe
LA
it
is? Or is it Calgary? One of the teams last night that played in a shootout was worse.
I don't know. Calgary is 7-7. I've got the Penguins at 6-16.
Maybe
if these
what it
numbers
was.
are to be trusted.
Well,
That they are.
somebody's stats on Sportsnet last night were incorrect.
If these stats are to be trusted, I think they're correct.
I mean, it's NHL.com, so I'm with you.
3-11 in overtime. If they were simply 500 in overtime, that adds another 4 points to your record because you'd be 7-7 in those scenarios, right? So you would then go to 73 points on the season in 70 games. That would put you about 4 points out of the Predators. The Predators have played one more game. If you were to get 2 points in that extra game, you'd be 2 points back.
And you played Nashville one more time, I think.
Of the Predators for the final wild card spot in the Western Conference right now.
And
So basically, if everything else was the exact same, you changed nothing about how putrid that first month of the season was, how awful Joel Hofer was, how bad Jordan Binnington has been, honestly, for most of the season, how bad your secondary scoring has been, all of this. You changed nothing. The injuries, if you simply were mediocre in overtime, that's not even a good record, just mediocre in overtime, you're basically a game back in the playoff standings. Now, this is kind of the type of thing that we would do with the Cardinals, where it's like, man, if Ryan Fernandez just wasn't terrible in the first month of the season,
That's true. Yeah,
they're a playoff
and if they
team.
pulled Fetty out sooner, they would have been a playoff team.
So it's very easy for any team could do something like this, where, man, if you didn't just have a bad month from Tristan Jarry or whoever our goalie was at that point in time, man, we'd be right there. So every team can do this with something, but it is frustrating that it's something as simple as 3-on-3 overtime, just not being the worst team in the league in that regard.
yeah, and I don't remember what their record was last year, but they were better last season in overtime, which is, you're right, it's the frustrating part. I don't know why. I think a lot of that was goaltending and lack of confidence from certain players because you didn't have a top line. You didn't have Thomas playing to this level. You had guys that were unhealthy. So the overtime is frustrating. I think what's more frustrating is the style that they've played since the Olympic break. Like, they're stingy, and some of it's goaltending, but look, I give them credit. They shut down Washington last night in terms of not allowing really much outside of the first 10 minutes of the hockey game, and they just play a simpler brand of hockey. They don't play this one-and-done, rush up the ice and take a shot from the outside and hope it goes in. They're actually like creating offense and like cycling plays and getting new bodies out there, and they're making elite passes and they're making great shots on goal. Like, the style that they're playing resembles more of what we saw last year under Jim Montgomery than what we saw early on. That's the part that I just can't understand as to why it took them 5 months to play this brand of hockey.
I don't get it either.
You'll go insane, though, so don't think
That's
about
why
it.
I can't help but just wonder, my intrusive thought, actually, maybe just my normal thought, that this is just another one of those hot 20-game stretches.
It might be.
It could be.
And the reason I say that is because, like, nothing's really changed. Outside, yeah, sure, they were healthy now compared to the first half of the season, but that doesn't explain last year's second half compared to last year's first half. And what the common theme is among all of them, and then going back even to a third year, 3 years back, is there's always a shot across the bow that gets the team going. And what I mean by that is they fire Craig Berube, Drew Bannister comes in, they play better hockey. They fire Drew Bannister, Jim Montgomery comes in, and it took a little bit, but then they eventually start playing good hockey. And then they get to the trade deadline, and Army basically says, I want to trade all of you guys that are a part of my core. And guess what? They all start to play good hockey all of a sudden.
The other piece of that, sometimes you just let the guys that are playing bad keep playing bad, and that's the best way for you to lose a bunch of games.
Ain't wrong there.
And when you trade the guys, And you see what's happening now.
It's us against you, and they go out there and they perform.
It's also young players that are going out there and playing well. You know, they're getting a bigger opportunity. They're taking advantage of that opportunity. Logan Mayhew's been just really good.
Yeah.
He's got his moments, don't get me wrong. He's not a perfect player. Still a young defenseman finding his way at the NHL level. This should be expected. But he's been better. Dylan Holloway, he's getting that opportunity on the top line. He's been really good. Jimmy Snuggerud has been fantastic. That shot yesterday was unbelievable for him.
Yeah.
The pass was great by Mayhew. The finish was fantastic by Snuggerud. It's the kind of thing we just didn't see a whole lot of early in the season. So you're seeing these guys take advantage of their opportunities on the ice, and it's been a pleasant surprise. As long as they don't screw up this draft pick too much, I would much rather watch this. It's a much more watchable product than what we saw for the majority of the season.
Playing this way, winning games like this, avoids that long losing mindset that we've talked a lot about. But to Tanner's point, his intrusive thoughts are just his thoughts. It's why I think the front office isn't going to be swayed by what they're doing right now. Yeah. It's why there's a real conversation to be had that they're probably going to trade Parayko. They're probably going to trade Kyra. They're really going to trade Robert Thomas and Jordan Binnington. Like, I don't think they're going to be fooled again. And that's why it's like, yes, enjoy it. Because a lot of these guys performing, like last night, Berger and Dvorsky, Stenberg, that goal was just pretty. And you hope that there's more of that.
I like Stenberg.
I like all three of those guys. I just don't understand why Berger keeps coming out of the lineup. It's 3 straight games where he's gotten 3 straight primary assists. I mean, he's been incredible. But, like, that's why I think they're going to look at this and be like, that was a lot of fun. Don't screw up the draft pick too much, but we're still moving these guys out because we're not going to do this again next year where October to December, you guys are awful. I have to threaten you in January. Trade deadline goes, and then you turn it on, and we don't get a good pick, nor do we make the playoffs.
He's Alex. That's T-Bone. I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Coming up at the end of this hour, we'll get into questions and answers. 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line in the 1 o'clock hour. How about this for Alex Ferrario? Good book, man. Good work. We got Paul Bissonnette joining us here on the show. Very excited for that. That is coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. So tell your friends, Paul Bissonnette from TNT and Spittin Chiclets joining us here on BK and Ferrario. You guys can get involved in the show at 314-399-9646. You can also get involved in the YouTube chat. That's where Gator, Mo, Willie, Jeremy, all over on the YouTube chat. Dr. Zander as well. YouTube.com/101ESPN-STL. But coming up next, are these jobs enticing enough for Josh Schertz to listen? He gave some interesting thoughts and comments on that next here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. So, big news in college basketball yesterday. North Carolina has decided to move on from Hubert Davis, their sitting head coach. Been there for a few years, done a fine job for the most part, but not good enough for a blue blood program. These kind of jobs, Alex, they just don't come open very often. Kansas also may be coming open. There's still no official decision yet by Bill Self, but he was asked after KU was bounced from the NCAA tournament, hey, what's the plan? And he said, hey, I'm going to sit down with my family, talk it over. He's had some serious health issues, especially with his heart. And so there's question, is he going to be back or not? And all of the rumors seem to be indicating he's probably stepping away. Now, that has not been confirmed, but there are a lot of rumors out there. The last 24 hours have been a lot of speculation that Bill Self is done as the head coach at the University of Kansas. The idea of Kansas and North Carolina opening up in the same cycle, I mean, I'm trying to think of something comparable in college football, but it's like if Texas and Ohio State opened up in the same offseason. Those are two traditional powerhouses. And in college basketball, that stuff has, historically speaking at least, really mattered. So yesterday, Josh Schertz was asked, hey, you signed your contract extension at SLU. Does that mean you're going to be here for the long haul? Here's Josh Schertz answering that question yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I've signed my extension, and so, I think that's proof positive. I'm here. You never, I mean, look, everybody, there's a lot of always speculation with these jobs, and people want to say, I think it's tough for coaches because people want to get these, you're in a terrible spot as a coach because if you say, man, I'm 100% back, and then something changes and something occurs and you're not back, then, oh man, he lied. If you say, man, I'm considering all these other jobs, then, well, you're distracted and you're not locked in. There's no right answer. What I've always said is I would always talk about the job I have, and I'm, I'll say this, like when you go through a process and you have other opportunities, whatever they are, you really get to think about, what's important to you, and if you're happy with your athletic director, with your president, with the board of trustees, if you're at a place you think is committed and you can be really successful at, it's very hard to mess with happy. And credit to St. Louis, they've done a great job of making this, from when I took it in 2024 to where it is today. The job is night and day in terms of the commitment level, the investment level in all areas, not just into me, but into the assistants, into our players.
Credit to him, man. I love honest answers like that. I love when you're upfront and honest with that stuff.
I don't know how SLU fans will take that because it was not a firm, I'm going to be here. It was very much a, yeah, I'm here. I'm happy to be here.
But SLU fans kind of had that nerve already, right? Like, in the back of your mind, you have to think.
Until he signed the contract extension. And I think a lot of people assume when pen is put to paper on a contract extension.
Not in college sports.
It seals it. I think for college sports, some fans still get the sense that it seals it for that year.
Those fans are wrong.
They're not educated.
They're wrong. I know they're wrong.
They're not educated.
I wasn't arguing that.
What I do appreciate from Schertz is that he's not going to blow smoke up your butt. He's going to tell you it like it is. And he said, listen, I'm happy here. I'm not looking to leave. Mm-hmm. I got an opportunity to, I bet you Josh Schertz was offered, or at least was explored as an opportunity for Syracuse. I have to imagine that was the case. Schertz is still at SLU, which means he didn't take the job. It's much like Eli Drinkwitz. Man, it's up to him. He can choose what his future holds. And if he's got great opportunities out there, yeah, man, explore them. Now, eventually, you're going to have to make a decision. And Drinkwitz eventually decided, I'm staying at Missouri. That earns you brownie points, in my view, as a Mizzou fan. For Schertz, I think it should earn him some brownie points among SLU fans that he chose to stay. That matters. But you shouldn't just say offhand, yeah, I'm never leaving, because it's not true. Mm-hmm. There are jobs that Schertz would probably leave for, I would imagine. My guess is North Carolina's one of them. If you're offered that job and you're at SLU, and I would say this if he was at Mizzou as well, by the way, you kind of have to listen, and you probably have to take it. It's what I said about Drinkwitz when the LSU job came open. listen, I want you to stay at Mizzou, but if you get offered the LSU job, you got to take it. I would advise you to do that as a Mizzou fan. So I can't in good conscience say you shouldn't even listen to what they have to tell you. This is North Carolina. It's the Jordan brand. Like, that is a program that at its best, they can win titles, plural, with the right coach there. And they are also, this specific situation notwithstanding, they generally stick with their coaches for a while. Like, they're traditionally pretty understanding of things, and they'll give you time to build it the right way at North Carolina. Kansas is the same way. If you get offered that job, you got to go. You have to take that opportunity. I don't know what those programs are going to do. Kansas has a guy in place in Jacques Vaughn who maybe they just offer it to him. And they say, hey, this is our guy long term. Every list that has been put out there for UNC is like, hey, they're going to go down the list of the top 10 coaches in college basketball, along with Brad Stevens and who's the other one?
Billy Donovan
at the NBA level. And they're going to see if any of them will take the job first. And then they'll get to the other names that are typically candidates for these kinds of jobs, as they should. I will be very interested, one, if North Carolina or Kansas get to the spot on their list where maybe it's 15th overall, where they do call Josh Schertz. And two, what happens if they don't get to that spot on their list, but they instead hire, like one of them hires Mark Byington from Vanderbilt. Is that the job that a guy like Josh Schertz would look at and say, man, I spent a decent amount of time in Tennessee. This is a big-time spot in Nashville. I've seen them have success in the SEC. Is that the kind of job that Josh Schertz could be interested in? What about if they hire the guy from Arizona, Tommy Lloyd? Would Arizona be interested in Josh Schertz? Like, the domino effect of all of this could be really significant for a place like SLU and a coach like Josh Schertz, because he's young, he's up and coming, he's a great salesman. Like, he has sold me on the SLU basketball program, and he's got a very clear identity on what he wants to do. And that identity, you can recruit to that, man. Kids want to play in that kind of an offense at any program, and kids at the highest level, man, you think about big men that are super skilled. If you're Josh Schertz and you can go to the next 5-star kid playing in Florida as the coach at North Carolina, hey, I want to make you Robbie Avila in my offense. That's an easy sell. That's not a hard thing for you to be able to do. So I'm very curious what all of this ends up looking like for Schertz and his opportunities that could exist this offseason. Yeah, I know it sucks to be talking about this again as a SLU fan after he signed the contract, but again, this is fascinating.
This is college sports. And like, if you don't realize that even when pen goes to paper, that it's not confirmed he's going to be there, I'm not trying to sound Tony or anything, but you're not educated with it. This is what happens with college
Still
sports.
Tony.
Was it?
Even with a warning, Tony.
I thought it was I thought it was like no disrespect, and then you like put that out there.
Still disrespectful.
I think the important part of what Josh said was at the end of it, where he said, you don't mess with happy. And he's happy. But you're also happy when you get paid a lot of money and you go to a school that's going to provide you all of the opportunities to go out there and build a program even better. And that's the fear that when it comes with Josh Schertz. So I think this is going to linger until those positions are filled. And as you mentioned, it's going to linger after those positions are filled, because those are new positions opening up. If you get Josh Schertz for another season in SLU, man, that is a huge win for you. And if not, it sucks to have to say, but this is just the name of the game. And you got to go out there and find your next Josh Schertz. And it's tough to do, but you got to continue to do that evolution, because that's just where you're at as a Billikens program. When you're in the A-10, it's hard to compete with those blue bloods.
And when you're in SLU's position, you have now elevated your program to be able to attract a really good coach because of what Josh Schertz did for you.
Absolutely.
And now you can see, all right, I can win there. So the next guy that's at a program similar to Indiana State that's looking to take that jump, well, SLU could be that opportunity for them. What Houston has been for college football coaches, SLU could be that for college basketball coaches, where they take that job and then they get a big opportunity elsewhere. Yes, it means you're a stepping stone program, but maybe one of those guys then decides, this is my home and I would like to be here for the next 10 plus years. That's also possible. I'm curious, T-Bone, because I think we're on the same page. I think it is unlikely that Schertz gets North Carolina or Kansas. I don't think he will end up being the answer there. But there's news today that it sounds like Will Wade is probably going to be named the next head coach at LSU again.
No way. Will Wade was shooting those rumors down.
That means NC State is probably coming open. That's another job that I wonder, hey, he spends a lot of time in that North Carolina area. Is that a job that he would be interested in? You know, could that be the one that calls him? What about Iowa State? If they end up hiring the Iowa State coach, does he get a call from Iowa State? What if, UNC ends up hiring the Michigan coach? Where does Michigan then turn? All of these have a domino effect that they open up jobs that maybe Josh Schertz would also be interested in.
Yeah, I don't know if he would end up going to NC State, and I really would be skeptical on Iowa State as well. I think for him right now, I think it is just, hey, I'm going to wait for the blue blood, right? If it happens to fall to me where North Carolina calls, or it happens to fall to me where Kansas ends up calling me, I would take that jump. I don't think he's jumping to Iowa State or NC State or whatever else might potentially open up. I think he's right now truly shooting for, hey, I'm going to continue to try and do kind of what Dustin May did. Like, if we go back to what Dustin May was doing, let's not forget, he went on a run to, I think it was the Final Four with Florida Atlantic, said, I'm going to stick it out, I'm going to stay another year, and I'm going to wait until a blue blood job opens up. And what ends up he getting? He settles up at Michigan, right? He ends up getting the Michigan job, waited it out. It was risky because he could have just totally flopped at Florida Atlantic and still be coaching there, but he decided to risk it. I think Josh Schertz is going to do the same thing, because otherwise I think he would have already jumped for one of the jobs. Like, if Syracuse had called him, I think he would have jumped at Syracuse.
Is Syracuse a better job than NC State right now?
I think so. I think it's got better history to it, which I think helps you a little bit there.
Like, financially, I'm not sure if it's a better job anymore. I think it was.
I don't know how much history matters anymore unless you're North Carolina, Duke, or Kansas.
If you're a blue blood program, I agree. I think it matters. But the only guy that's really won at Syracuse is Jim Boeheim. Now, he had the job for like 40 years, but I don't know if it's the same job that it once was. So maybe that's what he determined is, hey, that's not the job that I want. I want a Power 5 gig, like a place in the ACC, the SEC, the Big Ten. That's where I want to end up, with a program that can give me the resources that I need in order to win at a really high level.
If I'm him, though, like, well, Wade's leaving NC State. Like, doesn't that seem to signal that NC State, he viewed it as one of that it's not worth sticking around? Like, that would be the counter that I would have to that, is if Will Wade's jumping ship after a year at NC State to go back to LSU, that seems to tell me he doesn't believe they've got the resources
He's
for
also
him.
leaving to work for his old boss. Because his boss at McNeese, the guy that hired him at McNeese, is the same guy that now has the opportunity at LSU. Maybe Will Wade just wants to live in Louisiana. You know, I don't know.
I've heard it's a great spot. Look at
apparently he loves it.
Alvin Kamara.
Lane Kiffin apparently loves it.
Yeah.
He left Mississippi for it.
They have a great fan base. It's a very unique place to be, so maybe he just really wants to be there.
Yeah, I get the sense, based on what Schertz is saying, and again, that could just be total lie, I get the sense he's waiting for the blue blood to open up. And now maybe that changes, like, if NC State does call. Right now, my read is he's not going to NC State. He's not going to a Vanderbilt if it opened up. He's not going to whatever else other program might open up. It has to be a true top-tier coaching gig to open up right now for him to leave this current situation here in St. Louis, is my read on it.
It's going to be a really interesting cycle in college basketball. Now that UNC is open, Kansas could potentially be open, and we'll see who leaves their current gig to take one of those and what that then opens up. Josh Schertz is almost certainly going to be a name that you hear. We'll talk more later on today about the importance of these blue blood programs and whether or not they have the same cachet today as they did 5, 10, 15 years ago. We'll get into that later on. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. We'll get to that in 15 minutes. But next, what's the ceiling for this Cardinals rotation in 2026? We'll talk about that coming up here on BK and Ferrario. It's opening day in Major League Baseball, and Alex, I've got a play for you over on the Underdog app. You should download it today, and when you do, use our promo code BKO tonight. Logan Webb, lower than 6.5 strikeouts. I've got Aaron Judge to hit a home run. All rise, and Rafael Devers, higher than 0.5 hits. Put that all together, 8-1, because I've got a 50% profit boost. There's also a 40% MLB opening day profit boost as well. It's all available for you today over on the Underdog app.
Don't overlook those flex options as well when you're putting 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 picks together on one game. All of that is for you over on the Underdog app. And when you get your entries right, you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. So download the Underdog app today. Use promo code BKO to score $50 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code BKO. Underdog. Make plays. Win money. Must be 18 plus and present in Missouri. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/playing. Get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-MY-RESET or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
Tanner Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Last night, the St. Louis Blues took down the Washington Capitals. They are off today. They will be back in action tomorrow night when they host the San Jose Sharks. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 7 o'clock with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. And the Major League Baseball season opens up today as the Yankees visit the San Francisco Giants. The Cardinals will have opening day tomorrow. 3:15 will be first pitch as Matthew Liberatore will get the start for the Cardinals. The Sports Update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
So what's the ceiling for this Cardinals rotation? Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK.
Here's where BK sells us on a top 10 rotation.
Last year, they were a bottom 5 rotation in Major League Baseball.
But this year,
that matches the eye test.
They had a 4.7 ERA for the season. And the underlying numbers basically matched that. They pretty much played to what their performance was supposed to be last year.
Thanks a lot, Eric.
They were the only team in the NL Central that finished outside of the top 10, I believe. It's not what you want. Milwaukee was 3rd. Pittsburgh was 6th. Chicago was 8th. And Cincinnati was 9th in starting pitching ERA. I do think that might be representative of the offenses that they played in the NL Central. I think those things might be correlated.
Milwaukee and Chicago had great offenses.
Yeah, exactly. So the reason that I bring this up, Alex, is because you should be able to be more successful than what the Cardinals were as a pitching staff last year, as a rotation last year. Bullpen was fine. What do you think the ceiling looks like for this group?
Half of the middle of the league. So 15, 16, somewhere between 15 and 20. You're not wrong in saying that they'll be better than last year. It's hard for me to imagine you being worse than what that was last year. And we've had these conversations. When you pluck Eric Fetty out of the lineup, you're going to have somebody that's in a better position than those guys. But I think you're probably floating around high 3s ERA, something like that. I think you'll be consistent in the sense of you're going to have guys that go out there every fifth day and they'll give you innings, and it's not going to be blowouts like it was every time Fetty took the mound. But I don't think we're talking top 10. I don't think you can even sniff what Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Milwaukee, or Chicago did last year.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Alex. I think it's probably like that 15-20 range is the ceiling for this rotation, because they've got some decent stuff in the rotation, but they don't have like three guys that can overpower you. Like, you look at what the Brewers had, right? You had Freddie Peralta, Mizorowski showed up, and then Woodruff was a part of it. And they had some other arms that were interesting in there as well. Like, I believe Quintana was there as well last year to help them out. You look at the Reds, Lodolo, Abbott, and Hunter Green. Like, that's three guys that legitimately miss bats. For the Cardinals, they've got like one, and that's a question mark because I don't know if May's going to truly bounce back. He's the only guy. Everybody else is okay/fine at it. Like, Leahy will be fine at it. Libby's fine at it. It just kind of depends. I think what could really lift their ceiling, if they're going to get into that 15 range, it's the guys that come up from the minor leagues about midway through the season and really help potentially add some swing and miss, like a Mott's potentially coming into this rotation later on, or Fitz if he's able to figure out his stuff. But I think it's probably league average at best.
So I just pulled up, you remember the other day we had on Eno Saris, and he talked to us about the oopsie projections.
My new favorite
over on
stat that I'll be watching this season.
So they've got the top 6 Cardinals starters projected for the upcoming season. You know, I'll do top 7 because these are the guys that are projected to have at least 10 starts in 2026 for the Cardinals. It's Libby, May, Palante, McGreevy, Fitz, Leahy, and Hunter Dobbins. So it's the top 7, actually. Those guys are projected for the following ERAs. I'm curious if you think this is pretty much where you see them as well. Start at the bottom, work our way up. Hunter Dobbins, 4.6. Seems reasonable.
Yeah.
Kyle Leahy, 4 flat, a 4.0 ERA.
I think that's reasonable.
Richard Fitz, 4.5.
Yeah.
Michael McGreevy, 4.4.
Yeah.
Andre Palante, 4.4.
Probably higher, but
Yeah, that's going to be
Dustin May, 4.3.
He's one that I would say, like, I think he could be a sub-4 ERA guy.
And Matthew Liberatore, 3.98. The only starter they project to be below a 4 in the Cardinals rotation is Libby with a 3.98. The reason that I find this interesting, last year as a rotation, the Cardinals were at a 4.67. There is no Cardinals starter in these projections projected that low. So that would just, in and of itself, be a pretty significant upgrade from where they were at a year ago, because they just don't have anybody, according to these projections, that could be wrong. They don't have anybody that's expected to just be flat out bad. Now, this would have them in like the 4.1, 4.2 range overall as a staff, which is kind of what Alex was saying. That puts them roughly 20th in Major League Baseball in terms of what their ERA would be for 2026 relative to last year's numbers. That feels about right to me. But that's the projections, which means to me, maybe they could get up into that 15 range. And that's where I go with what T-Bone said, where maybe some of these young guys surprise. Maybe Libby takes a little bit of a step forward. Maybe Dustin May does not only improve from what he was a year ago, but get back kind of closer to what he was early on in his career. And then 1 or 2 of the young starters that's down in the lower levels right now becomes a significant impact starter by midseason. And if you get that, maybe they can get up to like 15th. I don't know what that means for their ceiling as a team, but as a rotation, that'd be a pretty good year. That would be inspiring to me.
It'd be a good year for a rotation that's in transition.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Because, like, most of these guys, like, I think we've had this conversation before, like, of the 5 guys that are in the rotation to start the opening week of the year, how many of them are in this rotation in the long term? Like, if I set the over-under at like a half, you would take over, right?
Yeah.
Or if I took it at 1.5, you'd probably take under.
When you say the long term, you mean like 3 years from now they'll be in the rotation?
Yeah, 3 to 5 years they're in the rotation.
I'd be surprised if McGreevy isn't.
See, I don't know,
just because
he
he's
doesn't
cost
miss bats.
controlled.
He doesn't miss bats, which means his numbers can fluctuate.
I get it.
And the other concern for me with McGreevy is his velo seems down in spring. It doesn't seem. It is down in spring. right now he's throwing like Wainwright's miles an hour, 90 miles an hour. And as we saw, it's hard to live on that, So I think the only guy that I would take right now would potentially be McGreevy. I'm kind of with you. He would be the one I lean on. But, I can see a scenario where he's not here in 3 years. Just like I can see the scenario for basically everybody that's in the rotation right now. But if you can get that for a rotation that's in transition that is going to shoot for a higher ceiling with guys like Doyle, Sanja, Bryson Mott, anybody else that I may have missed in that, Fitz if he potentially falls into being a part of this long term. That's pretty good for a team in a rebuild.
My hope, I think the goal for the rotation this year is to have one more guy add himself to that list. Because right now, I think McGreevy will be here, and that's as much about his contract as anything, honestly. He's cheap. He's cost-controlled. That's something that this team's going to need is a cheap, cost-controlled fifth starter. They haven't had that in a really long time. They've been paying guys $12 to $15 million a year to come be that specific thing for them. If you can get that for, I think this year it's $750,000 that they're paying for Michael McGreevy, yeah, that's worth its weight in gold. But if you can add then, Matthew Liberatore to that mix, who has 2 more years under contract or 3 rather, under contract currently, and maybe you're able to get some kind of a contract extension done with him after this season or next, cool, that'd be great. If Dustin May comes in this year and he's just great for you, maybe he becomes somebody that you sign to a 3 or a 4-year contract extension. Those are the kinds of things that when you're in this spot as an organization, I think the goal should be McGreevy establish himself as that 5 and then somebody else emerge as a long-term starter for us. If you can get that, I think it's a pretty successful season, all things considered.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a requirement for me, though. I don't know if that would make it a success. I don't think I need that for a success this year. I don't know if you're going to be able to judge the rotation in any terms of, this was a success for the rebuild. And the reason I say that is because I think what's more important for them is to develop the top-end arms rather than the 4-5s. Because we've seen they're willing to spend on that. I've never seen them be willing to go out and spend, for a Freddie Peralta or a Tarek Skubal.
It can be both, right? This season can be about establishing the middle and back end of your rotation. I don't think they have anybody currently in the rotation at the big league level that projects to be anything more than that. So those guys are down at the lower levels.
The reason I say that, though, is I don't know, rotating through the 4 and 5 starters throughout the length of whatever we're talking about, rebuild, build. I'm not sure how much that really matters, right? I think it's like a bullpen. You can kind of rotate through the 4 and 5, as long as you just have guys that are capable of doing it. That's what I would say. And that's why, I don't know if there's really
Ideally,
a way
you have somebody, though.
I know. I just don't know if there's a way to determine that that's a success in this rotation this year. Because, McGreevy could not be that guy next year, right? You could have somebody else take on that role if McGreevy falls apart. Or
that doesn't
same
make it
with
not
Palante.
a success this year.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way for the rotation to be a success this year. I also don't know if there's a way for it to be
nihilism.
I don't know if there's a way for it to be a failure though either, right? Unless the wheels completely come off.
Oh, if it's not a failure, it's got to be a success.
I think the rotation is just you're watching it and seeing these guys pitch, and then you're getting there's longer term.
Yeah,
I think
I don't know. But if we're saying there's not a guy potentially in this that's here in the next 3 years, I don't know that there's much.
But I am
you're watching for.
That's where I'm disagreeing with you. I do think that some of these guys can be part of the rotation in 3 years, and I think this year can be part of that. But we don't know yet. I need to see what Michael McGreevy is at the big league level for more than just a 2-month stretch. I need to see what Kyle Leahy looks like as a starting pitcher at the big league level because I haven't really seen that yet. I need to see what Dustin May looks like when he's healthy and has all of his weight back on. I need to see what Matthew Liberatore looks like this season. All of these things I think are meaningful milestones for these starters. And I do think a good year from any of those 4, I will put Palante to the side, but any of those other 4 that I just mentioned,
expect a good year.
I think they can establish themselves as somebody that you're not building around and that they're a cornerstone piece of whatever this build is, but this is somewhere where we just, I think, disconnect on all of it. I think it's okay to also have the supplementary pieces as part of this rebuild. I think this year you could see maybe it's a Nathan Church that established himself as the last starter on a contending club, or a Michael McGreevy who establishes himself as a meaningful back end of the rotation starter. You need that stuff. And it becomes important once you're spending on the top of the roster to have the back of the roster as a cheap cost-controlled option. So that's just a place where I would disagree. I do think this can be a successful season for your rotation if 1 or 2 of them do become multi-year starters.
Yeah, I think you want answers. Just to cross-sport compare, we're not looking at Otto Stenberg not being a top line as a failure. We're looking at it as, hey, he's a third line for a team that when they're competitive, that's going to be a really good piece for them. You just got to find the other pieces. I think you'll end this season. I'd put Dustin May in a different category because to me, whatever he does, I'm not going to really judge because I view that as a trade chip at the deadline.
I guess the way I would deem a success for the rotation this year, and it really would probably circle with May, is if May has a really good year and then you trade him and get really good assets. Like, that's the one that I would see as a success.
I think McGreevy and Liberatore can be positive returns and a success for you if Liberatore shows you the ability to be a full 162 starter and can continue to kind of track on the same line the rest of the way through the season. And I think if McGreevy shows you, like, hey, he could give you 150 competitive innings, that's a success because, in my opinion, over the last few years, every time a starter has taken the mound for the Cardinals, I just assume he's going to be out of the rotation in a couple of years.
From Dale and Grubville, BK's drinking the opium. You can tell he's a Royals fan. Who has a better record this year, the Cardinals or the Royals? First of all, the Royals. Yeah. And second of all, yes, exactly. I've been through this before. Like, this is my childhood, is watching guys over the course of 162 during a 100-loss season and finding out who are the building blocks. Who can you win with whenever this team is good again? That's all I knew as a kid, was watching teams like that. And I think it's very new here in St. Louis to have this experience. And I'm not telling you how you have to feel during this season because it's going to suck, man. It is not going to be fun if this thing goes the way that all of the projections say. Now, maybe they're better than the projections are. I don't think so, but we'll see. When you're in this kind of a spot, it's the little things that start to matter. And you find out, like, what Otto Stenberg is with the Blues. Can somebody on the Cardinals become that for them? So it's going to be a different way of watching each and every game. The breakdown of the specific decisions aren't going to matter as much. It's going to be about the bigger picture
on the roster
more often than not. Coming up in 15 minutes, the current results for Jimmy Snuggerud and Jake Neighbours, those two going in very different directions, are why, in my opinion, the Blues should not trade Robert Thomas. We'll get into that here in just a little bit. Questions and answers next here on 101 ESPN. Hey, it's BK, and it is time for you to unlock your inner champion, and the place to do so is with Victory Men's Health. Check them out today online at victorymenshealth.com. That is where you can read all about they have to offer. They have a bunch of different services, whether you're looking for something that's going to help you with your low testosterone symptoms or weight loss goals that you're trying to meet. Maybe it's erectile dysfunction. They can help you out with it over at Victory Men's Health. They can also help you with vitamin infusions. I know I'm going over there prior to one of my half marathons this year to get one of their vitamin infusions. Can help me out with that. They also have metabolism boosters. They've got longevity IVs, the hangover drip. It's all available for you right now over at Victory Men's Health. To book that first appointment, go online at victorymenshealth.com. It's an incredibly easy process. Just put in your name, email, phone number, tell them BK with 101 ESPN sent you, and then tell them what it means for you to unlock your inner champion. It's all available today online at victorymenshealth.com. Book that first appointment at victorymenshealth.com.
Yeah, I mean, I've signed my extension, and so
314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. Go ahead and get them in right now. In 30 minutes, we'll talk to Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues. In the 1 o'clock hour, we will be joined by Paul Bissonnette. From the 314, Alex, is Joel Hofer on track to become the highest paid player on the Blues if he continues playing this way?
It's hard to deny it. He's still under their control for, what is it, next season, and then he's got one more year of RFA status, and then he's a UFA. So 28-29 season is when he's a UFA. I mean, look, Vasilevsky and Bobrovsky make $11+ million, and they have a reason to make that much money. But Joel Hofer, if he performs this way for the next 2 seasons, he could be surpassing what Jordan Binnington made over the last contract that he had. I talked about this with Joe on postgame last night. It's wild to me for an organization that struggled for so long to find consistent goaltending. You may be passing the torch from a Team Canada starting goaltender to the next Team Canada starting goaltender. Because in my opinion, there is not a better Canadian goaltender in 2-3 years when they're doing World Cup of Hockey and Four Nations and Olympics. There will be there won't be a better goaltender, Canadian goaltender, than what Joel Hofer could be in 2 years.
Joel Hofer, he's an RFA after this year?
No, right? He's got one more.
Next year
he's got 3.4, and then he's an RFA, and then that takes him into UFA status the following season.
So right now, the top of the market for goalies, Shesterkin is at 11.5. Carey Price is the second highest paid goalie in the NHL.
Who hasn't played in like 3 years.
Good for him. What a contract.
It's wild.
It's a Bobby Bonilla deal.
Apparently.
At, let's see here, 10.5.
So Bobrovsky should be up there.
Bobrovsky's at 10, and then Vasilevsky at 9.5.
And what did Connor Hellebuck just sign for?
He signed for $8.5 million. He was 30, though, at the age of signing, and he signed that for a 7-year deal. Ottinger signed 8 years at 8.25.
That's probably right around what you're looking at. My
guess is you're looking at that $8.5, maybe $9 million a year range, which the answer is yes. That would make him the highest paid player on the St. Louis Blues. So to answer the question, I think probably, I don't think it'll be by a lot, but I think he'll probably be your highest paid player.
As he should be, because it's very evident right now, it has been since Binnington was a goaltender, the goalie's your number one player. It is the identity of the style you are going to play. If Jim Montgomery is a stingy team that likes to play defense, you've got to have elite goaltending. So he should be paid that.
I'll add a caveat. Snuggerud could exceed him, depending on what happens.
I think he's going to have to be a 45-plus goal scorer to exceed that.
You think?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, because I think Kerber now would be like a $10 million
currently
player.
their highest paid player.
Yeah, I'm saying in like the current market situation, like he would probably be about a $10 million player.
Yeah, Snuggy would be entering RFA status at the same time as Joel Hofer. So I wonder who gets more. If you had to place your bet today, you think Hofer gets more than Snuggy on that first one?
You'd have to show me a guy who didn't score 40 goals or put up 90 points that is making north of $9 million. Because I don't know how many of those
going up. It's going to be.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying.
But I don't know if this team's doing it.
That's why I would lean Snuggerud. I would not. One thing I would not do that I would be cautious of is overreacting and then paying your goalkeeper. There was a great piece in The Athletic yesterday or 2 days ago about a lot of teams getting stuck into bad contracts because they pay the goalie and then they end up living to regret it. And I'm not saying you don't pay Hofer. You have to because you don't have other answers. But if I were to choose who would I rather have on the higher contract, Hofer or Snuggerud, my answer would be Snuggerud. It's a lot more easier to predict what he's going to do compared to a goalie.
So Lucas Raymond would be my comp for the Snuggerud contract, Alex.
I think that's a good one.
Lucas Raymond just got, where'd it go? 8 by 8.1. And that's in this year's market. Mm-hmm. So 2 years from now, if you're going by inflation, you're probably talking about an 8 by 9 or something like that. For somebody like a Jimmy Snuggerud, because Raymond has never scored more than 31 goals in a season. His first 4 years, 23, 17, 31, 27. And he only had 1 year with more than 72 points in a season. So I think that's kind of the comp that you're looking at for Jimmy Snuggerud. Be interesting. All right. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. In 15 minutes, can a good team have a contact-first identity in 2026 if it doesn't also come with some significant pop? We'll get into that in 15 minutes because I think it's the way that the Cardinals are trying to build. But next, we are seeing some very different results right now for Jimmy Snuggerud and Jake Neighbours. How does that influence their offseason with Robert Thomas? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. So I am curious, Alex, as you've been seeing some of the results for Jake Neighbours and Jimmy Snuggerud. Jake Neighbours, I believe it's 2 goals since mid-January now.
Yeah. Monty talked about him yesterday. He said he's really going through it, and he's like, we just got to get him back to being confident in the offensive zone.
Okay, he has 2 goals in his last 21 games. That's not what you want out of him. Meanwhile, Jimmy Snuggerud's been fantastic in that same stretch of time. In his last 19 games, 9 goals, 22 points, and he's a plus 14 on the ice. It is not lost on me, Alex, that Jimmy Snuggerud is doing this with Robert Thomas as his center. Meanwhile, Jake Neighbours is in the middle 6, where you've got, Dalibor Dvorsky, who I think has hit a wall, and Pavel Buchnevich, who's not a center. And you've got those guys trying to center align with Jake Neighbours, where they're just not creating a lot of offense right now. This, to me, and this is why when we went back to our conversation with JR, and I highly recommend any Blues fans go listen to that conversation from yesterday. I think it's well worth your time. It's why I wouldn't trade, one of the many reasons why I wouldn't trade Robert Thomas this offseason. Because he gets the best out of your young players. You're able to evaluate and maximize Jimmy Snuggerud and Dylan Holloway right now because they're on his line. Meanwhile, it seems like Jake Neighbours is kind of dying on the vine while he's playing with Pavel Buchnevich or Dalibor Dvorsky. And to me, you could see something similar with Snuggerud or Holloway next year. I think they're a little better players. It wouldn't be to the same degree. But you could see something similar next year if Dvorsky is suddenly asked to be that number 1 center, or Suter is asked to be that second-line center, and Buch is once again back as one of the middle 6 centers, or Dvorsky. I just don't think that's the way they should be going into next season. So Snuggerud has been awesome, and I love seeing this, and it's a full credit to him. It's also a credit to the number 1 center that he's playing with right now.
Yeah, it is, and this is why I'm fascinated to see what direction they're going to go, because I can make ample excuses as to why you don't trade Robert Thomas. And honestly, it swayed my decision from where I was at the trade deadline. But going back to what T-Bone brought up in the open, the frustrating part of this season is the same frustrating part of the last 3 seasons. Now, you didn't have Snuggerud and Holloway over the last 3 seasons, but I'm not going to fall for this again to where it's like, hey, this is great, and I'm glad you're doing this right now. But in October, and you don't show up until December, and then I have to start calling all of you guys out again and forcing potential trades, and then you start playing again. We can't keep doing this. Like, at some point, do they say, hey, there's a culture problem? And that's what Backus talked about yesterday, to where it's like, if you're not going to be consistent in game 1, that what you are in game 50 and then game 81, then what's the point of continuing to play that same rodeo? Now, I understand the point. It's because you've got an elite number 1 center. I just don't know what direction they're going to go. Like, are they not fooled by this and they say, no, we're not doing this anymore. We're still going to look to move it. And if we get the price, we're still going to move on from it. I will say this, what they have to be taking into consideration is watching what Thomas did last night. And I'm not talking about the points or the production, because he's been unbelievable on that front. And we've seen that now for really 4 seasons in terms of him being a point per game player. I have not seen Robert Thomas get as animated and frustrated and angry as he did when Jimmy Snuggerud and Tom Wilson got into that. And call it motivation because he was potentially being traded. Call it motivation because he is tight with Jimmy Snuggerud and Dylan Holloway. Call it motivation because he wants the captaincy. That's where, to me, it would have been an eye-popping moment if I'm Alex Steen going, oh, well, if that's the Robert Thomas we're getting moving forward, and if we get that every game, then that's something that we can look at and say, yeah, you're a piece of this core. So, I mean, my concern is Jimmy Snuggerud is not Jimmy Snuggerud, and Holloway is not Holloway if you lose Robert Thomas. But do they look at it and say, my concern from a Blues franchise side is we do this rodeo again next year, and we're having the same conversations from October to February, and we're going to continue to be stuck every single season.
It might be. They might end up in that spot, but I would rather be there than the alternative. And this is what I was trying to portray to JR yesterday. And JR is just giving us the organization's view. He's not saying this is what I would do. He's just relaying what he thinks the team is most likely to do, which I appreciate from him. But like I think people look at it and say, like, if you bring back Robert Thomas, you could get stuck. Yes, that is true. You might be. But at least I know with Robert Thomas, even if you're down on him, as I have been at times in the past, he's an overqualified second-line center. He's a really, really good second-line center. Or in a worst-case scenario, he's a decent first-line center. Like, he's somewhere in, what do you think, the 20 to 30 range in terms of centers in the NHL right now? somewhere around that
I'd
range?
have him probably 15 to 20, somewhere around that.
That's maybe there's just not 20 first-line centers in the NHL right now, just as there aren't 30 aces in the league. Not every team has one.
That's not fair. The Dodgers get to have 5.
I know.
Yeah, well,
But the Cardinals don't have an ace this year. They've got a guy that starts on opening day, but Matthew Liberatore is not anybody's idea of an ace.
How
It's an idea number 4.
So you've got to make it work. You've got to figure out the best way to make it work for you. And to me, I can make it work with Robert Thomas as my number 1 center. If I trade him, now I have to go find a guy that can be a number 1 center. That is not an easy thing to do. Think about how long it took for the Blues to do that. We love David Backes. Love the guy. He was not a legit number 1 center for most of his career in the NHL. He's probably best served as a second-line center in the NHL for a true Stanley Cup contender, right? Or you had to have a great team around him to be able to make up for it. And that's not a shot at Backes. It's just the reality. I think that could be Robert Thomas's career, or maybe he's just the guy. And he's, 26 years old, and he's going to continue to develop. And in his last 16 games, he's a plus 16. That's really, really good. I don't want to go back into the abyss of having to search for this over and over and over again, where you keep trying to go find the next guy to be that. The way that they have been lately for their defensive core, where they get rid of Alex Pietrangelo, and it seems like every offseason we're talking about, you kind of needed an Alex Pietrangelo. Mm-hmm. So I would keep him. I'd continue to develop him. I'd continue to develop the guys around him. And then hopefully you're able to piece this thing behind him.
And I would too. Let me make that very clear from what I'm about to say, because I'm going to give the Blues side of it. I would too, and I would look to move the secondary pieces and look for options on my second and third line, because I think your defense is in a good spot. Your goaltending is in a great spot. If you have a number 1 line, then let's find pieces that could be second and third line players for us. But if you're going from the Blues perspective and they say, yeah, but we're not going to do this anymore, to where you don't show up for 60 games and then you show up. The goal, and why I think they were searching, at least from all the reports of Robert Thomas being traded, was to make a trade for a guy who was already been in the development stage. You're not trading him and getting draft picks and saying, we'll search for him in the draft. You're trading for him with the understanding of that guy is going to be, we believe, what Robert Thomas is. We're setting our team back 3 years, but we're setting them back to the same timeline as these other pieces, and we're going to go out there and get the guy that's already been drafted and somewhat developed in the minor league system.
You better be right, because if you're not, you set your team back a decade.
And that's the chance that you have to take. But again, from the Blues' perspective, are they looking at it saying, if we keep doing this, one, we're not going to get the same value for Robert Thomas, maybe, and I don't know, but if we keep doing this 2 years from now, Snuggerud, Holloway, and Neighbours continue to develop, but they don't really go where they hit that wall. Thomas continues to do his inconsistencies, and we continue to be stuck like the LA Kings were.
It's a tough spot.
Yeah.
It's a tough spot to be in as an organization.
It's why I find this offseason fascinating. I've made this comp before. You've got 2 paths. What decision do they go on? Do they trade all of these pieces away and say, nope, we're kicking this can to the 21, 22 years old, and in about 3 years they're going to be in the same spot together? Or do we keep running it back with this Robert Thomas, trade other pieces, and say, let's piecemeal this together and get good, but not great?
Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, in 15 minutes in the 1 o'clock hour. Paul Bissonnette will join the show. But next, can a good team have a contact-first identity in 2026? Sure seems like the Cardinals are going to try it. We'll get to that next here on 101 ESPN. The Cardinals seem to want a clear identity for 2026, Alex. They're about contact, not power. Now, some of that is by default. They don't have a whole lot of guys that can hit for power. But another one is by choice. Nelson Velasquez, we had our conversations about him yesterday. He does a lot of things poorly. He does one thing, though, really well.
Jesus, man. Come on.
He does hit
buy
for
Velasquez
power.
jersey and we're upset.
No.
God, you just hate the guy.
I don't. I just think
quit
that
leading
some
with
of
his
this
bad
is...
stuff.
He's
All
terrible
right?
at everything he does, but he
we
does
might be
hit.
overreacting to a
But he does hit.
26-year-old that probably wasn't going to be a part of this beyond 2025 and really beyond April.
I think
Let's be real here.
I think you're overreacting.
All I heard you
but-
describe was Jose Fermin.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Cardinals don't have a whole lot of power in their lineup right now. So I went over to the Zips projections.
Zip.
To find out where they have the Cardinals when it comes to home run projections for 2026. They have the following players projected for the most home runs on the team. Gorman with 21, Burley with 18, Nootbaar with 16, Herrera and Walker with 14, Wynn with 12. They also have Weatherholtz with 10, and that's it in terms of 10 or more home runs on the season. They have Scott with 7 and Church with 7. Overall, that's 130 home runs for their top 10 position players projected in their lineup for 2026. Add a few more just for like Pajes, other guys that could potentially be in the lineup. Let's call it 140. Alex, it's not easy to find a team that's had success with that level of power production. Since 2021, the only teams that have had 140 home runs or fewer in a season that finished above 500 were the 2022 Cleveland Guardians and the 2022 Tampa Bay Rays. That's it. Over the last 5 years of Major League Baseball. Do you think it's possible for the Cardinals, given their roster construction, to be a good team with this kind of offense lacking that kind of power?
No. I don't. I think this is why I think you're more likely to be 70 to 75 win team, because I don't think your pitching staff is going to be elite, and I don't think you're going to be able to put up a lot of runs to outscore the runs you're giving up. And the reason you can do that typically is because you've got somebody who can provide that pop for you. I think the path that they can do it is somewhat like the Milwaukee Brewers, where it's speed on the base paths and you kind of manufacture that power. I don't believe you have that speed throughout your lineup, and I just don't believe you have the amount of guys that can get on base. I think Weatherholt is interesting. I think Wynn, Herrera, and Burleson and Gorman are your pop, but outside of those 5, I'm concerned of what the rest of your lineup looks like, and I think it's a lot of guys that can hit singles and then guys that either strike out or ground out, and then the inning's over.
So I took this back to 2016 because I think that's kind of the start of the modern game. 2015 was kind of a cutoff point. That's when the Royals won the World Series. 2016 started something new. That's when the Cubs won the World Series. A lot of power, a lot of strikeouts, and that's been the name of the game in the last decade.
Of course, the Cubs are on baseball.
Yep, agreed. So in 2016, the Giants did this. They ended up hitting 130 home runs that year, but they won 87 games. Here is the common theme between the 2016 Giants, the 2022 Rays, and the 2022 Guardians. They pitched the hell out of the ball, man. 2016 Giants, Madison Bumgarner, 34 starts, 227 innings. What a horse. 2.7 ERA.
Jeez.
Johnny Cueto as their number 2 starter. 32 starts, 220 innings, 2.8 ERA that season. Yeah, that'll play. In 2022, the Guardians, they had 3 different starters make at least 30 starts with a sub 3.4 ERA. Shane Bieber, Tristan McKenzie, and Cal Quantrill. Man, that went quickly for 2 of those.
Yeah.
And in 2022, the Rays, 3 different starters made at least 25 starts with a sub 3 ERA. Shane McClanahan, Drew Rasmussen, and Jeffrey Springs. Those guys all had a sub 3 ERA, at least 135 innings. The Cardinals don't have anybody that projects like that, guys. So to answer my own question, no, it ain't happening.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Unless they find new power sources. Maybe Joshua Baez emerges or Gorman is amazing, but given these projections, nah.
Yeah, Baez would have to be here probably quicker than expected, though, right? Like, I don't even think Baez could save you if he shows up in August post-trade deadline. He'd almost have to be what I was saying, which I got yelled at for, which is he's here the first month and Walker lost his job to him. So, yeah, I'm with you. You can't live on an offense like this unless you have good pitching. And I said that on the Red Bird Report when you asked me how can they win 85 games. And I said their pitching has to be elite. Because as we've seen across baseball, we saw it we can even go most recently to the World Baseball Classic. The best arms can shut down the best hitters. You can look at teams that didn't have good offenses last year that made the playoffs. Why? Because pitching can carry you. Look at the Reds. Look at the San Diego Padres. The Padres were more named than bite. I mean, Machado had not the same typical Manny Machado year. Tatis didn't really live up to the hype. Merrill was not the same guy he was in year one.
Last in home runs last year?
If they weren't last, they were close to last. But their pitching overcame all of that. Now, you can probably get a little bit more away with it in the modern game with if you have an elite bullpen. But every team that you mentioned, it started with the starters. And I think that's where the focal point is. And I agree with you. I don't think they've got the guys to do what like the Rays did or the Guardians did. So, no, I don't think you can live on this identity that they're trying to build as an offense.
San Diego, by the way, 28th in Major League Baseball in home runs last year. Pittsburgh was last with 117. My God.
That's probably where the Cardinals are at this year.
To go back to what I said earlier today on the reason the NL Central had so many good pitchers, quote unquote, is because Cincinnati was 21st in Major League Baseball in home runs, Milwaukee 22nd in Major League Baseball in home runs, St. Louis 29th, and Pittsburgh 30th. I don't think that's because you've got a bunch of aces in the NL Central. I think that's in part because you've got a lot of guys in the NL Central that don't hit for power.
I can't believe the Reds were that low. I mean, look at them. It's called the Great American Small Park for a reason. How could you not hit for power in that ballpark?
They don't have dudes.
Do they even lift, bruh?
Apparently not, bruh.
Yeah, it's going to be
Drink
different.
your muscle milk, Reds.
Protein shakes.
Can you manufacture slug with this lineup? Do they have guys that can steal some bases?
I was just
that's what Milwaukee did.
Yeah, Milwaukee did it. They had 6 guys with 15 plus stolen bases, 7 if you're going by 10 or more.
Do you have guys that can get on base enough to steal that many bases?
Fair question.
And I think Weatherholt is one.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. Yeah, nobody. Oh, that's not true. One guy had less than a 340 on base last year for the Brewers that stole more than 15 bags, and that was Churio at a 308. I don't know if it's necessarily you have to have a high on base. The question is, do you have guys that are going to be willing to do it? Stealing bases, as we saw from Josh Naylor, no offense, Josh, was more about will than it is about anything else. Do you really want to go and slide on the dirt constantly and continue to have that burn on your hamstrings when you go down or on your chest? And that's really the question. And they've got guys with speed to do it. Scott could do it. Wynn could do it. If Walker could do it, are they going to be willing to do it would be my question.
Joshua Naylor really had 30 stolen bases last year.
Yeah, didn't Juan Soto lead the league in stolen bases?
Yeah.
And that guy's slow. I've seen him.
Yeah, that was the most under-discussed huge stolen base season in the history of Major League Baseball. Because I didn't even realize that until after the season had taken place, that he was that high on the stolen base numbers. But yeah, that's the one way you can potentially manufacture some slug with this lineup, but I don't even know if they can do it that way. So, it's going to be
a fun season.
Coming up next, Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Last night, the Blues took down the Washington Capitals. They are off today. They will be back in action tomorrow night when they host the San Jose Sharks. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 7 o'clock with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. And the voice of the Blues, Chris Kerber, joins us next here on BK and Ferrario. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Blues win last night 3-0 against the Washington Capitals. Another shutout for Joel Hofer in net. We go to the Callier and Thompson hotline right now to break it all down with the voice of the Blues, Chris Kerber, here on BK and Ferrario. Curbs, appreciate the time as always. Joel Hofer has been one of the best goalies in the NHL for a few months now. When you talk to people around the team or just based upon what you see with your own eyes, what's changed for him?
You know what? I don't know that anything's changed. I just think he's continued to grow. You know, he
was the worst goalie in the league for a month.
Well, okay. Well, that's why I'll finish this. You're looking at a scenario where, as his season has gone along, one of their goals at the beginning of it was to start putting him in spots that he had not been in before in the NHL. So some examples of that would be, instead of playing like maybe the game against a weaker opponent, right? They're going to give him the first game of a back-to-back scenario instead of scenarios of where maybe he plays a game and then sits the next three. They put him in where he'll play 2 games in a row because how do you respond after loss? Things like that. The hard part, to your point about, one of the worst goalies in the league, both goaltenders were in the month of October, and so was the entire team game. It was just awful. And right now you're seeing guys like Jordan Kyrou in that last game bust back and deflect a pass that's intended to go towards the net. You weren't seeing him make those plays on a consistent basis earlier. And so whatever the reason is, I don't know. I just know being around him, he hasn't changed his ways. He hasn't changed his approaches. He's just continued to work on it. And I think now that the team is playing a better game in front of him, plus what he's doing, his .950 save percentage in the month of March is just off the charts. I think it's just a continued growth. He's now set career highs in games started, games played, things like that. So sometimes I think, especially because of the load that Jordan Binnington was carrying, we almost, I guess to your point, I hadn't put a lot of thought into myself, is we almost forget to lump Joel Hofer in that mix too, as a player that didn't have a tremendous amount of experience, but keeps getting better.
So kind of on that front, and I know this is speculation here, Curbs, but when you look, we were talking about this earlier, just in terms of his contract scenario of how, he's got one more year under contract and then he's an RFA. And then after that, he's a UFA the next season. How do you feel like Alex Steen and Doug Armstrong will approach this? Because there's uncertainty tied to Jordan Binnington as well of him being a part of the team beyond this season.
Yeah, so, okay, look at the goalie scenario as it is, and you've got both goaltenders under contract for next year. All right, then Jordan Binnington is the UFA, and I believe Hofer is an RFA at that point in time. I think it's very clear that right now, especially when you look at really the lack of goaltending depth in the organization, below that, I think it's very clear that your goaltender of the future is Joel Hofer if Jordan Binnington's not here. I see several scenarios. One, Jordan Binnington gets an opportunity to move someplace else and chase another cup sooner than later. And I could see that scenario happening. It's turned over to Joe Hofer. Blues find a veteran backup, in that scenario while they continue to develop Zarenko and maybe somebody else. That Swedish goaltender that they've got that's had a good season, Loverstam or something like that. I don't remember his name. And then, then the other scenario is one that I honestly think, guys, is very plausible too. And that's with an 84-game schedule. Knowing how the Blues tend to like using their goalies, I almost start to see a workload shifting to Joe Hofer, and Joe Hofer becoming the 1A and Binnington becoming the 1B. As Jordan just continues to cement his position as the best Blues goaltender of all time, and with wins and championship and all that other stuff involved. So they've got some time to play it out. We'll just see, Alex, if this summer, with a deal for Binnington or doesn't come in, that kind of thing, how that plays out and works through. But the one thing you're seeing with Joe Hofer, you're seeing a calm to him. You see him almost kind of adapting Jordan Binnington's what me worry personality to it. You talk to him in the room and, tough questions aren't hard. Things like that, like you're seeing a real growth of a player here. And my goodness, the performance has been fun to watch.
We're talking to Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues here on 101 ESPN. Kerbs, I do want to ask you about kind of the situation this team's in right now, because we're talking about Robert Thomas earlier today. Of course, there was all the speculation around the deadline as to whether or not he was going to be a part of this team's future. How much do you think, the next 3 weeks will play into those decisions for Alexander Steen and Doug Armstrong this offseason? Do you think there is something these guys can do, whether it's Thomas or Parayko, Ben, or whomever, that will ultimately help them decide whether or not they're part of the future? Or do you think those decisions are basically made already?
It's a good question in this sense. Do I think they're basically made? I think when they looked at the deadlines, I think they looked at what some potential options were, and they kicked the can down the road a little bit to see what they could do with it. When those didn't transpire, whether it be because an offer wasn't good enough or a player said no, those different scenarios, I think that resets the clock. The best way for me to answer that is to tell you what I saw. And I stood right next to Alexander Steen for the entire practice in Vancouver. And it was really a crack the whip, driving practice, good, hard, focused, business-like practice from Jim Montgomery, what he expects to see. And just talking about what he was seeing through the practice and stuff, Alex Steen sits and watches these practices, and he's evaluating everything. He looks at how is a player working, what he's doing, his experiences in the locker room, on the ice, that kind of stuff. He sees things at another level, and honestly, his evaluations are off the charts. So, no, I don't think certain decisions have been made. One thing I've come to learn is sometimes the best deals in the NHL are the ones that don't end up getting made. And right now, it looks like they have found some real good, chemistry with a line of Holloway, Thomas, and Jimmy Snuggerud. They're going to have these final 12 games to really show what they can do and how that goes. And I think that can change guys' decision makings as well. The last thing to that is I also do believe that if you go back to when Doug Armstrong decided to make this organizational change, go to the younger core, try to avoid that long 7-8 year downturn that we've seen some teams do. I think he felt that the process was sped up with the success of last year. That maybe have taken a step back, and I think they've clearly gone in the mode of we're going to really give these young kids an opportunity to grow. So in that sense, I think that's going to drive their decision-making probably more than anything else in terms of that is what are the opportunities and what's the continued growth we're seeing from these players that we've drafted.
He's Chris Kerber. He's the voice of the Blues. Kerbs, before we get you out of here, the Puck Cancer third period charity hockey game is coming up on Friday night. That'll be at the Centene Community Ice Center. People can hear the Fast Lane broadcasting live before the game from 2 to 6 at the E&B Granite Studio. Tickets are on sale right now for that third period game. Kelly Chase continues his battle. He's bringing together Blues alumni and NHL alumni for another special night, and this will support Siteman Cancer Center and the V Foundation for Cancer Research. We're going to talk to Paul Bissonnette about that coming up here in about 30 minutes on BK and Ferrario. Please grab your tickets right now. But Kerbs, I know this is an event that is near and dear to your heart, given your experience with Kelly Chase. What are you looking forward to? What can people look forward to as they go to this thing on Friday night?
Dude, BK, Chaser can just pull people together, right? I mean, even when I first got into town and you saw who was playing in the Twist and Chase Media charity game, and they brought the Hanson brothers in for a game, it was just amazing to see. And he's doing it. He's continuing to do it with with his friends like Sean Payton, Garth Brooks, bringing in guys like David Backus and other former Blues, Paul Bissonnette coming in. Like, this is not a gathering. This is a legit entertainment experience that people are going to have a lot of fun at. Watch these alumni play, other celebrities and things. Chaser's going to be there. Like, it's when you're talking about a guy that's battled cancer over the last few years like he has, and he still managed to raise over $1 million in 2 years, and this is going to get it closer to over $1.5 million. That's really an impressive commitment to Siteman Cancer Center and cancer research, the V Foundation, and all that. So I encourage fans, take your Friday night, take part of your evening, come on out, buy the tickets, do it, support it, be entertained, see celebrities that you just normally wouldn't see in St. Louis, and enjoy the whole experience. It's something special.
He's Chris Kerber. He's the voice of the Blues. Appreciate his time as always. Blues off tonight, back in action tomorrow against the Sharks. Pre-game for that one starts at 6 with Alex. Puck drop for that at 7 with Curbs and Joey on the call. Curbs, appreciate the time as always, man. We'll talk with you again next week.
All right, guys, have an awesome week. We'll see you at the rink.
You got it. That's Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, joining us here on 101 ESPN. Appreciate his time as always. Again, if you want more information, go to 101ESPN.com, or you could check out the Puck Cancer Third Period. It's on the Centene Community Ice Center page, and you can just Google Puck Cancer Third Period. If you do that, you can get your tickets on sale right now. Again, Paul Bissonnette will join us coming up in about 30 minutes. If you're not familiar with his name, well, he's one of the biggest names in hockey right now, especially when it comes to analysis. Does the Turner pre-post and intermission. He also is one of the co-hosts on the Spittin Chiclets podcast. So very much looking forward to Paul Bissonnette joining the show coming up in about 30 minutes here on BK and Ferrario. Coming up next, we're going to dive into the junk drawer here on 101 ESPN.
All right, classic air care. You've heard Alex Ferrario talk about them. You've heard me talk about them. Why? Simply because they take care of our house, and we know that if you call them for your air conditioning needs heading into the spring and summer, we know that you're going to get the kind of service and care that we have gotten in our homes for our families. Look, I travel a lot, and the reality of it is you want to make sure that things are running well, because when you've got to deal with issues when you're traveling away, you want your family comfortable. That can be quite stressful. That stress is gone with Classic Air Care. You have them out in the spring. If you haven't had them do a maintenance check on your unit in a while, get it done. It's one of the biggest things you can do. It's like changing the oil of your car, rotating the tires. Things last longer. You get a better performance with a simple, basic maintenance check. And on top of that, it could help avoid catastrophic expenses where you might have to replace an entire unit. Now, here's what they recommend that you can do on your own. Change that air filter regularly. Make sure that with the windows open and things that your air filter is getting changed and that it is running at as high efficient possibly as it can. And then on the same side, get outside, check around that air conditioning unit, make sure no debris, no leaves and stuff are stuck to it. Clean it off. Make sure it's ready to go. Get online at ClassicAirCare.com. You can give them a call. They've got over 100 vans on the road. They can typically get to you within 24 hours. They're there for all your HVAC needs. Get your house comfortable. Make sure Classic Air Care is front of mind when you need something done to make sure that your house is the way you want it to be. It's Classic Air Care. You can get that appointment online at ClassicAirCare.com. They've been making people comfortable since 1926.
We had a texter very upset. I did not mention Spittin' Chiclets, part of the Barstool Sports Network. Just to be clear.
Why are they upset about
Paul
that?
Bissonnette is part of the Barstool Sports Network.
Are they really
I'm
upset
not
about
afraid
that?
to say that.
Oh, were you afraid to say that?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. We're not getting political on the junk drawer. We're not getting political on the junk drawer.
They said, you're not giving full credit. You hate Barstool. That it is what it is. And listen, Barstool's not for me, but that's fine. I think the Spittin' Chiclets podcast is awesome. We talk about it regularly here on the show.
One of my favorites. It's up there with 32 Thoughts and Merrick's podcast.
I think Pardon My Take is great. Some of the stuff they do, not for me. That's okay. Some of the stuff that ESPN does ain't for me. Some of the stuff that we do on this station is not for me.
I
some of the
believe
stuff
everything that ESPN does
is not for other people. That's A-okay. That's the nature of the game. All right.
Is this the junk drawer here, man?
It is indeed.
Okay.
I had to get that off my chest real quick. Okay.
Apparently.
Have you guys seen what the Cardinals are doing? New offerings this year? We've got some cool stuff.
I'll be the
I'm still
judge
waiting
of that.
for their 26-man roster.
Well, that's going to be cool, too, when
I
they
thought it
have
was
to
supposed
cut.
to come out at noon.
Brian Torres is
Gooey butter
really,
cake on a stick?
Oh, that doesn't sound...
No?
No. I don't like gooey butter cake to begin with, but adding a stick to it, I'm out.
A Dolce Pop. This is for the hot summer days. Berry Beak Popsicle, pre-made, shaped as a cardinal bird with a hat. And there are going to be customizable fan favorites, such as the Shark Attack with gummy treats and a campfire similar to a s'mores. I think your kids are going to be fans of this, Alex.
No,
the
my kids aren't allowed to have this because
they can't have popsicles?
Too much sugar.
Popsicles are great.
Too much sugar.
Good call.
They do love popsicles.
You guys been to the Big Chicken at the Cardinals
Big
games?
Chicken.
Big Chicken.
Is that the Shack one? Mm-hmm. Isn't it called something else? I thought it wasn't Big Chicken.
Little Chicken.
I think it's called Big Chicken, if I'm not mistaken.
I thought it was like Scratch Chicken.
Big Chicken.
Oh.
Idiot.
They have a new offering, chicken and waffles. That I will be ordering.
I love me some chicken and waffles.
I can't do that on like a hot summer day.
Yeah, that's
sure.
not something to do in this hot summer
like,
day.
That's like
Opening
that's
day
a
when it's
spring or a
92,
fall
yeah.
Food, yeah. Nobody does chicken and waffles in the summer. I question your sanity when you're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, sure, I can have it when it's 110 degrees outside.
That's fair. That's kind of like this one that I'm about to mention. They also have a new rotating series that they're going to have. It's the Made in the Lou series. So it's a bunch of different local businesses that will all be at this one specific kiosk, so to speak, and it'll be rotating. So for the first month of the season, it's going to be a Hawaiian grill that takes place there. I love Hawaiian grills. I think that's probably good timing on when you should do that. I don't know that that would have been great in the middle of July or late August.
Yeah, no.
They've got K-bop Korean-style bowls with noodles and spicy meat from May 1st to May 21st
I
there.
won't be doing
We might
spicy
be
meat
stretching
as a
it by
ball.
middle of May.
I won't be
The
doing
fattened
spicy
calf,
meat.
I don't know if you guys have ever had it. It's spectacular. They are going to be there with Filipino barbecue starting in late May into early to mid-June. And then you've got Taste D Burger, STL, so burgers. Gulf Shores Restaurant in August. And then they're having something else in September. I love this. I like the idea that the Cardinals are getting a little creative here. They're offering new stuff. I think it's something that the Blues have done a fantastic job of in their renovations, where they started offering more local options at the arena.
That's what City does as well.
Yeah, City's
great
amazing
stuff.
with it. Yeah, the Cardinals getting involved with this, I think, is really cool.
Yeah, and they need good selling stuff like this for 90.
This is how you make the game fun. You put good food there, and people want to come out there and try it, and then there's a ball game attached to it.
It's like the $29 offering that they have, where
the
you
one
can go there.
that's-
I think it's pretty rare that it's actually $29, but it starts at $29. You go, you have like the all-you-can-eat seats as part of those. T-Bone's going to be there
You can eat hot dogs.
at least 10 times for this.
Oh, more than that? Are you kidding me?
Can I ask you guys a quick question, though?
Yes.
Do you know how you can watch Cardinals games this year?
No, we won't find out
they
till tomorrow at 8 a.m.
I don't. Me and Jackson were talking about this when we were kind of crossing over. I understand all the Major League Baseball teams that are on their .TV or whatever they are haven't announced the channels they're on. What is that?
Well, but also, why are people getting upset about this? Like, they've told you that it's going to be available in the same regional cable destination. Why do you care about what the number is?
Because I'm not sure that it's going to be with everybody.
But they told everybody
typical.
that.
No,
I
I said
don't
they're
know.
negotiating with everybody.
I thought they were very upfront about how it's going to be
we don't-
available
like,
to
we
you with the
have-
same regional subscribers.
What's ours here? Spectrum, if I'm
Spectrum.
not mistaken. We have no idea if that's on Spectrum. No idea.
That's true.
Because they haven't announced if it's on a channel. They haven't announced that they've reached a deal with Spectrum. They haven't announced that for like Fubo, which is what I have. I can't believe they haven't announced it, and they're saying we're going to announce it on opening day. Well, because that makes a ton of sense, baseball.
I thought they were
Thank you
pretty
for
clear
bringing
about
that
it
up,
was going to
'cause
be
I was
available.
with Jackson. I was very upset
I
about
thought
it.
they said it was going to be available on the same major cable and satellite
Negotiating
providers.
with everybody. So
They think it will be.
Yeah.
They hope it will be. As of right
just
now,
like YouTube
nothing has
TV
been
probably
finalized.
thought they would have it
Just
for opening day last year, and they
Keep
didn't.
seeing people getting upset that, well, I don't know what number it's going to be. I think you could find that out at 8 a.m. and still find it by 1 o'clock in the afternoon tomorrow.
Yeah, I think it's a legit open-ended question. I am a little surprised it's taken this long.
'Cause how
Like, if I'm a
frustrated are you
fan,
gonna
I would
be?
be pretty frustrated that I don't know tomorrow where I'm going to find the game, or if I'm going to find the game, or if tomorrow I'm going to have to buy Cardinals.tv.
Yeah.
I think that's somewhat reasonable, honestly. Also, it didn't happen during spring training either.
Yeah.
And I think the fans at least were aware of that it wasn't going to be
And
resolved
they
by
had
the time they got to spring training.
with, Matrix Midwest. I'm pretty sure all the games that were on Cardinals.tv were through Matrix Midwest.
So
but I
there
don't
you
think
go.
that's going to be the case for the regular season.
No, they have specific games that are expected to be on Matrix Midwest or Channel 4. So they've got, like, I think it's 10 games throughout the season that are going to be simulcast on free television throughout the year. So, you know, that's not nothing. That's 10 games that you'll be able to get. And then there's like 10 more that are on national TV. So those will be available. So about 16% of the games you won't have to have either Cardinals.tv or cable to get, but most of them you will. Coming up in 15 minutes, we're going to talk to Paul Bissonnette. He's with Barstool Sports, has a podcast called the Spittin' Chiclets podcast, also is an analyst for TNT pre-post and intermission. He's one of the best in the business. Really excited to talk to him, both about what they're doing for the Puck Cancer third period event and also just his thoughts overall on the Blues this year and how things have gone this horribly awry for them. We'll get into that with Paul Bissonnette coming up in about 15 minutes. But next, I do want to talk to you guys about your overall level of anticipation for the Cardinals going into this year and how it differs from previous seasons. We'll get into that next year on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Blues practice lines today, according to Matthew DeFranks, included Dvorsky centering the line with Holloway and Snuggerud. It was Neighbours with Booch and Kyrou, and then Stenberg.
Did you break my microphone?
Hey, man, in 6 months it'll be fixed. Stenberg with Druin and Berggren. On the fourth line, it was Torpo, Finley, and Suter. You had Walker and Sonny as your extras. No Thomas, no Tucker today on the ice. So that is something that we will try to keep updated with. They will have Jim Montgomery coming up at 4:30 on the fast lane today. I'm sure they will ask about the availability or lack thereof with Robert Thomas. Alex, I know typically when you see something like this, if Thomas is going to be available tomorrow, you would assume one of like Walker or Sonny would be centering that top line, and then he would be a placeholder for
or
Thomas to go back
Druin
out
would
there.
be centering that top line, and they'd keep Dvorsky with the line that he'd be skating with.
Yeah, the fact that it was Dvorsky that bumped up to that line makes me wonder, is Thomas actually going to be available tomorrow?
Yeah, kind of the same way, because that's typically how they do it in practices. When a guy's just having a maintenance day, they put just a placeholder in that spot and keep the other lines the same, and you're not going to just take Thomas off of that line and put Dvorsky there. So I viewed that as, oh, yeah, he might not be available. Although I know Jim Montgomery, JR tweeted it out. Montgomery said it was a maintenance day, and he's expected to be available tomorrow against the Sharks. So we'll see.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line from the 618. JR already tweeted that Thomas is back tomorrow. I don't know that that's what he said specifically.
I thought that's what JR had tweeted out, that Monty said that it was a maintenance day, and he would be available for San Jose. But maybe he deleted it from there?
I don't see anything from JR.
He must have deleted it, because I saw it pop up on there, so maybe the answer changed.
Yeah. The fact that, again, he wasn't available and they bumped those guys up, it makes me at least skeptical that he's going to be out there tomorrow. But hopefully he is. I mean, it'd be great if he is. That was a pretty nasty fall, though, that he took there. All right, so the opening day roster officially set. Cardinals have officially announced this. My guess is they'll be announcing their corresponding moves here momentarily. Your catchers, Ivan Herrera, Pedro Pajes, and Joel Pozo. Infielder are Alec Burleson, Jose Fermin, Nolan Gorman, Thomas DeJC, Ramon Urias, J.J. Weatherholt, and Mason Winnett. In the outfield, you've got Nathan Church, Victor Scott, and Jordan Walker. You know what the pitchers are on this one as well. It is official. According to the Cardinals, Lars Nootbaar has been placed on the 60-day injured list. So that is the corresponding move. They didn't have to take anybody off the roster.
I'm glad that took us all the way up until 107. To make sure that we could do that. And I'm glad Fermin made the roster, not Velasquez.
So let's go ahead and stick with this for a minute. This is why you make that move. The reason that you make the move with Velasquez is because you lost nobody from your roster. You didn't have to send anybody through waivers.
Man,
J.J. Weatherholt making the roster meant you had to make one move on your 40-man. That move is Lars Nootbaar. Now, this also means you have a 2-month runway before Lars Nootbaar is able to return officially. He cannot come back in the next 2 months at the big league level. Now, he can start working his way back, progressing through the minor league system, but cannot play a game for 60 days for the St. Louis Cardinals. That means there's at least a month where you can find out what Velasquez is down at AAA. You can also find out what JC is and what Fermin is, what Church is more likely.
Got to find out what Fermin is.
And then you can make a call for the second month of the regular season. I'm fine with the way they did this. I know it's not sexy. It's not fun. You'd rather probably see Velasquez, who can hit a bunch of homers, potentially. But I've got no issues with this, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, look, I said it yesterday, and I'll stand by it. I'm not going to get upset about this because I don't think Velasquez was going to be a difference maker. I just find it very odd that that's how they handled it. They're so worried about losing a Jose Fermin that they don't keep the guy on the roster that proved it through spring training and won that competition. But it's Velasquez. It's not like we're talking about a top prospect like a couple of years ago with Jordan Walker, and how at the beginning people were like, how could this guy not make the roster? And there were decisions that led to it. So this one, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. It's fine for me over Velasquez. To me, I just don't like the idea of making it seem like there's a competition in spring training, and when a guy does everything that you ask him to do, he's not rewarded with a spot on that roster, because I don't want to lose a guy off of my 40-man that literally is the same player as about 3 others that are on my 40-man.
I do wonder if some would have a retort to my thing on Lars Nootbaar and say, well, that's exactly why you bring Velazquez onto the roster because now it's a 2-month stretch instead of, maybe one, where previously we thought there was a possibility that Newt would be back sooner. And now we know it's going to be at least a couple of months before you're able to see him. I also wonder what this means for Baez, because now you could have a competition at the AAA level simultaneously as you're having the one at the major league level where, hey, man, a month into the season, you could then have a conversation about who your starting left fielder should be for the next month because you have a clear end date on like the starting point for when Lars Nootbaar could return. And maybe there's a competition at the AAA level between Baez and Velazquez to see who could potentially be on that roster by, I don't know, May 1st. Because Baez is already on the 40-man.
I would lean that the tie goes to Baez, right? Just because you're in a rebuild. I mean, I tweeted this out. When you're in a rebuild, the guy that's on the 40-man and has any kind of scenario where you look at him and think he's part of the future automatically wins the tie, right? It's why Velazquez, I'm not even sure you see him as a Cardinal this year.
I would probably bet against it.
I would as well. When he didn't make the opening day roster, all I saw was, oh boy, this poor guy's fate's down in Memphis all season long. Because I just don't see it, right? If it is a tie between Baez and Velazquez and we want to make a change in left in the first month, like you're saying, yeah, the tie goes to Baez. Baez has a future here. Or if it's even a Sajaci versus Velazquez, right? If you're saying, hey, we haven't really seen Sajaci in the outfield, do we want to give him a runway or do we turn it to Velazquez? Sajaci wins. He wins the tiebreaker because he has a potential to be part of the future. They just don't view Velazquez clearly as that. And I agree with what Alex was saying about what they're doing with the 40-man. I find it weird they're operating scared of losing a Fermin-type player or a Prito or a Torres, guys like that. But it is what it is, right? They're in a rebuild. They want to try all the younger guys ahead of him. I think you're right, though. I think within a month, we'll have a conversation. We'll see where Nathan Church is in this left field battle. If he's hitting, he stays there. If he's not, then we'll have a serious conversation about what Baez looks like at the AAA level or Sajaci, depending on what he's been doing in his limited at-bats.
Yeah, if I don't have to lose a guy off of my 40-man roster for Nelson Velazquez, I'm not doing it.
Lose a guy who didn't perform in spring training for a guy who did perform in spring training.
Yeah, because the regular season matters more, and Velazquez hasn't performed really in the regular season.
Signed a guy in free agency who is Fermin with a little bit more track record, and also have another guy on my 40-man roster who is the exact same player as Jose Fermin.
Who's the other guy?
Cesar Prieto.
I don't think he's the exact same player.
I mean, he's a utility person who could play the infield for you, and
he can't play the outfield, and he's not athletic.
Okay, well, I got a lot of outfielders, and if Velazquez is playing, he's an outfielder.
I don't know if he's a good one, but he can, yes, technically.
We're in a build, man.
I
don't need you to be good ones.
Velazquez is just coming out. I think you just predetermined you don't like Velazquez.
You just hate him because he didn't help your Royals back in the day, and now you don't like him on your teams.
A lot of people didn't help your Royals out.
You're correct.
They're still not helping the Royals out.
Yeah, you still need him. Why don't you go get Velazquez for your team?
I mean, Bobby Witt could carry them to the playoffs last year.
Or Salvi.
Velazquez did have like a good 40 games with the Royals. Really nice 40 games.
You clearly forgot about him.
No, I remember it because it was outpaced by his 60 games where he was abysmal 2 years ago.
Okay, tough guy.
I just wouldn't have made the move if I didn't have to.
I don't understand.
I'm fine with it. I'm surprised. I was surprised that they did not bring him to the major league roster. I assumed because of what he did in camp, he would have earned this starting nod in left field. But if I'm starting Nathan Church out there, and it seems like that's probably going to be the direction that they decide to go, I'm fine with it. I've got no issues with it. Nobody's going to hit for power, and I don't think Velazquez would have either. Coming up next, we're going to be joined.
Unbelievable.
We're going to be joined by Paul Bissonnette of Barstool Sports, also Spittin' Chiclets, and also TNT's NHL coverage. He joins us next year on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. Happy to go out to the Collier and Thompson hotline to be joined by Paul Bissonnette, of course, a co-host with the Spittin Chiclets podcast. You also see him on TNT's NHL coverage. We really appreciate him giving us a little bit of time today ahead of the third period charity hockey event for Puck Cancer. It'll take place on Friday night. Paul Bissonnette going to be a part of that. Paul, we appreciate the time, man. How you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me on, and what a great cause and reason to be coming into St. Louis this weekend and celebrating Kelly Chase, man. What a guy and what a legend, and I can't wait to see him. And I'm actually going to be hopping on his podcast on Saturday as well, the one that he started with the boys, Tony Twist and Brett Hall at their studio there in St. Louis. So pretty fired up to be in person, and I always love coming to St. Louis.
We know hockey it's like a fraternity almost, especially for the tough guys that have been a part of the league. But I'm curious, Biss, what's your relationship with Kelly Chase? How did you get involved with this? And B, how'd you get involved with the relationship with Chaser?
Well, I think I met him for the first time in a game that was there. That was the first time we got to really spend time together. And maybe I'd said hi to him in passing before that, but they threw on a charity game that week as well, where there were some real heavy hitters that came in and played. I remember John Hamm was there. I got to meet him for the first time as well. And it was really cool seeing the alumni room that they have at the practice facility there in St. Louis. And I just kind of became closer to Chaser, actually even more so for going up to Gaza in the summertime where Wayne and him and Tyson Nash and a bunch of other former Blues have places as well. And the one thing I'll say about Chaser is he's just one of those guys that loves to give back and really represents what hockey players are about. And it's really important to have guys like that kind of paving the way. And I'm sure as he learned through guys before him and before his time, like the Bernie Federkos and the guys like that. So it's just really important to have representation and veterans like that teaching us younger players who are coming up how to give back and how to be a proper alumni. And that's really what it's all about. So I've been fortunate to continue my relationship with Chaser, and I spent some time with him at Chris Chelios' charity golf tournament this summer. So I know I've been a little bit long-winded, but just kind of throughout the years and his his spirit just kind of pouring on to the younger guys and really showing us the way.
It's hard to not be long-winded when you talk about Kelly Chase just because of the impact that he has. Biz, I thought you were going to say you first met him when you and Whitney were on the Blues in training camp when they brought you guys in.
You know what? That was exactly, he was doing some media, and that's probably where I got to spend a little bit of time, mainly in the locker room, though, right, when he's coming in after practice and stuff like that. But like I said, I finally really got to spend some time with him there when I was retired. And like I said, just a true beauty. And, oh, man, he's got some incredible stories. And anytime you hang out with him, you have a lot of belly laughs and hear about some of the antics he got into during his heyday.
I do have to ask, Biz, just like when you find out that they're putting this on, I mean, I would imagine it's an immediate yes, but what's it like to look at the other guys that are offering up their time to come out and do this? Like, not only does it tell you how much Chaser means, but the cause that they're doing and all of these guys around the National Hockey League that are coming out to support this.
Yeah, I mean, Chaser's a pretty special individual, and as I said, he's really left his mark on just how he's paid forward, in the community and what he does. So anytime that Chaser's throwing something on, not only do you know it's going to be for a great cause, but also the beauties that are going to show up. You kind of try to add your name to the list really early on, and it just so happens that on the schedule, I already had that I'm doing TNT tonight. And then I'm actually flying out early in the morning to go to Utah to do the Nash cast because I got to work with Tyson Nash as a Phoenix alumni, and also that he transferred into media. So I followed a very similar path to Tyson, and it's an honor getting to go to hang out with him. And it just so happens that Friday morning he's flying back cross country to come to the Puck Cancer event as well. So we'll be sharing a flight together. and sharing some laughs as well. And it kind of just adds to the list of guys who are willing to drop anything they have going on to accommodate Chaser. So it's going to be a great event, and I really hope that a lot of people around the area show up, and anything they need from us in order to kind of socialize and hang out and show support, we're willing to do it.
Does that mean you're going to be at the Blues game on Saturday against the Leafs?
Yeah, I'm going to probably hang out there, and I'm Chris Weidman's in town as well, so we're probably going to stop by and watch at least a few periods. And it's going to be the toilet bowl. Obviously, none of those teams inside of a playoff spot.
At least we've got our pick, though, Biz.
Right here, and it's been a tough season for both squads, and although St. Louis has been pretty good out of the Olympic break, but. I kind of mentioned the toilet bowl. I wouldn't mind flushing this one down the drain pretty soon here for the Leafs.
We're right there with you, Biz. So if you don't mind, can we ask you a little bit about the Blues? I know obviously you've seen them throughout the season on the TNT broadcast, not the season that anybody was predicting, as you just mentioned, the toilet bowl game. What stands out to you, Biz, in terms of how they finished last season in the NHL versus what this season has looked like and how they fell apart?
I would say in the first part of the season, I was a little underwhelmed with how physical and aggressive they were. I think that the Bolduc trade didn't help them early on. I felt like they maybe lost a little offensive chemistry. I really liked the spark and physicality and what he brought. And I understood it from a St. Louis perspective, trying to add some defensemen and some younger ones at that in the prospect pool with Mayu, because they were probably looking at potentially moving Parenko, moving away from Fox. So you kind of need to replenish and add to the young players like Broberg. And I just felt like in the back half of last year with their kind of their resurgence and how much they were pushing. I mean, you guys could probably speak to it even better. As it were, the first round against Winnipeg. And I know it didn't end the way that they wanted to, but my goodness, man, it wasn't even there like it was a puck out there on the ice, and how physical they were. And I just think that they were just off to that slow start, and with how deep the league is, specifically the Central Division, it was just hard for them to catch up any steam and get within a playoff spot. But now, saying all that, when you look at some of their young players and what they have for a young core coming up, you can't not be excited for St. Louis. As far as how Armstrong has left Steiner in a situation to succeed with all the top draft picks, the first rounders, and providing those offer sheets, which they ended up getting Broberg and Holloway. You guys got some good young talent. I was a little shocked that they were shipping Robert Thomas, and hopefully that that maybe is no longer and that doesn't happen and he sticks around, because I think he's such a good player for such a low number and a great foundational piece along with all those young studs I mentioned. So we'll see what happens though. But there's a lot of teams in way worse situations than St. Louis is to have a quick retool and rebuild, especially at the fact you have all those first rounders in the bank. And Doug Army has really left this team in a good situation for Steiner. You'd be hard pressed to find a GM leaving a team in a better situation for the guy who's about to take over than that.
Paul Bissonnette joining us for another couple of minutes here on 101 ESPN. Biz, that's what I wanted to ask you about next is Robert Thomas. My firm opinion on it has just been you don't trade that guy. You've got a number one center. He's 26 years old. He's locked in for $8 million a year. That's the guy that you build around. We have our opinions, though, locally. You are more coming at this from the national perspective. How do you view Robert Thomas as a player relative to his peers league-wide?
Well, I think that if he's able to take another step at what you had him locked in for is unbelievable. I mean, I think after this year he might have 5 years left at around $8 million. I believe maybe it's 4 years after this year, but I'm pretty sure it's 5. I think there's not really any criticism. I just think that if he spent a good amount of time in an off season, bringing his shape to the next level, I think that you guys have a a top 15 centerman in the league and potentially maybe a top 10 if he's able to kind of, like I said, make that next jump. But as far as hockey sense and what he brings to the table, I see a lot of potential for him. And I also think the same for Kyrou, although it's weird. Like, I hope the same for him. He possesses so much skill and speed. I think that if these guys, along with the other young guys, take a look internally, I think that they could, in the next few years, like, climb to a team where they're a top 5 team in the league. And I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass because I'm on this network. I genuinely think that because, like, look at those contracts too. Like, they don't possess a lot of the team's cap, especially at the fact that I think in 3 years it's going to be at $130 million. So you're going to have both those guys making probably a little bit less than 6% of the cap. So let's see what they can do here and what those guys are willing to do with themselves in order to bring this team to the next level.
Because I did want to ask you, just in terms of Alex Steen taking over after this season at the NHL level. I mean, we see a lot of guys that played the game that are now general managers. Bill Guerin, for example, in Minnesota. How do you view Steener in terms of going into that general manager's role and taking over this Blues team?
I think that you would be, once again, hard-pressed to find a more qualified guy, just based on the fact that he got to shadow Armstrong. He knows the organization and the city very well. And, I think that he's going to go above and beyond to attract, even free agents to end up coming there. Like, the thing about St. Louis, too, is at least I was looking at a few years ago, the amount of guys that were like traded there and end up spending the amount of time there and then retiring there is astronomical. Like, it's top 5 in the league. It's a very sneaky city in a sense of, like, if you want to raise a family and you want like a good culture and great community, that's a place that you do it. Like, you look at guys like Jack, like, look at their alumni. We just talked about it. Like, their alumni, like, if they got in shape, they could probably compete for a playoff spot, for crying out loud. So I think that he's going to do unreal. And he's also a guy who played top 6 for part of his career and then had to take maybe a backseat role as a player when they ended up winning that Stanley Cup. Like, he was a bottom 6 guy when they did that. And he was also there during the years where there were high expectations where they were losing to who were they losing to? I think they lost to like the Blackhawks teams and stuff like that. So to have a guy who was around that long, around that city, and who has played in so many different situations, I just think it's very valuable to understand the dynamic of how a team is being ran and the communication between coach and its players. And, he had his fair share of different types of coaches, right? Craig Berube, Hitch was there when I was there for training camp. And, they had a very silly dynamic in the locker room. One that I think you could have rolled the cameras and sold a 24/7 series behind the scenes with that bunch of guys. So I think he's going to have awesome success, and I'm really, really interested to see how he's able to handle it.
Paul Bissonnette, one of the best in the business. You can see him on the NHL's coverage over on TNT. You can also hear him on the Spittin Chiclets podcast. He'll be in attendance this weekend for the Puck Cancer event. It's Friday night at the Centene Community Ice Center. We'll have the fast lane out there from 2 to 6. They'll be doing like a pregame coverage out there from the arena. And then, of course, the game will be played starting at 7. So check out all of the details right now. It is the Puck Cancer third period event taking place on Friday night. Paul, appreciate the time, man. We look forward to catching up with you again soon. Hopefully, if the Blues are able to win the lottery, we can talk to you after that.
Oh, yeah, okay. That's a deal. If they win the lottery, I'm back on 100%. I'll even do a 30-minute segment with you guys. I highly doubt Gary will let that happen, especially if the Leafs are picking top 5. If we don't get it, I'm storming the league offices.
Yeah, well, they kind of have to pick top 5, Biz. Otherwise, that pick's going over to Boston.
That's right.
So.
All right, that's about time I hang up.
yeah,
appreciate you, Biz.
Thanks, Biz.
I appreciate your guys' time, and I hope I see you guys at the Puck Cancer event. And once again, if you're listening, come out, support everybody in the community, including one of the biggest rock stars I know, Kelly Chase. Appreciate you guys.
Yep.
Thanks,
Biz. You
That's
too,
Paul
man.
Bissonnette
Thank you.
joining us here on 101 ESPN. Really appreciate his time hopping on with us today. Maybe we'll see him out there at the Enterprise Center on Saturday night as well. As the
that
Blues
place
take
will
on the Maple
erupt.
Leafs.
That place will erupt, and he'll have his Maple Leafs gear on, I would imagine. So, but we just got that in. T-Bone, clip that off, save it, so that when the Blues win the lottery, I will message it over to him and be like, to let us know when in your 30 minutes you're available.
Deal's a deal.
Deal's a deal.
Yeah, he locked it in. Yeah. There's no getting out of it now.
No take-backs.
No takesies-backsies.
Toronto.
God, he's not wrong. It's the toilet bowl.
If they don't pick top 5, they legitimately have to give this thing up. Mm-hmm. They have right now.
He's not on the phone anymore, right?
No.
I really want them to pick 6th.
Right now, they have
fourth and then lose the lottery.
85% chance to not select in the top 5.
Yeah, it's not happening. And Boston, who may or may not make the playoffs, probably will get a top 6 draft pick.
And that's for Brandon Carlo, right?
Uh-huh.
From last year's?
And they also got Fraser Minton, who is a top 6 center for them right now.
Right now, I think he was playing top line minutes. Mm-hmm. Like he's their number 1 center in Boston.
It was the
year after acquiring
People are
him.
complaining about Craig Berube in Toronto. Let's look at what the GM's track record is of Brad Treliving saying we're not bringing back Mitch Marner, and we'll also go out and trade for Brandon Carlo we'll give up one of our best forward prospects, which, by the way, they're having problems at the forward position, and we'll give a top 5 protected pickup. That's bad.
It's crazy, man. All right, in 15 minutes, we're going to give you an opportunity to win a pair of tickets to see the Battlehawks. Their home opener is this Saturday against the DC Defenders at the Battle Dome at America's Center. Also, you will be able to see Nelly during the halftime performance, so stay tuned for that. That is in about 15 minutes. But coming up next, I want to dive into some NFL quick hitters because 2 things. 1, I think we've all lost the plot when it comes to the quarterback discussion in this year's NFL draft. And 2, T-Bone's guy needs to chill. We'll talk about that next here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here. The Sports Center update brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. Blues took down the Capitals last night. They will be back in action tomorrow when they host the San Jose Sharks. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 7 o'clock with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. And the Major League Baseball season starts tonight as the Yankees visit the San Francisco Giants. First pitch will be at 7:05. Tomorrow, the Cardinals will be in action for opening day. 3:15 will be first pitch as they host the Tampa Bay Rays. Matthew Liberatore will get the start for the Cardinals. And the Cardinals also selected the contract of J.J. Weatherholt and placed Lars Nootbaar on the 60-day IL. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Universal Windows Direct.
We're one day away from the home opener. 101 ESPN will be broadcasting live from inside Ballpark Village. Home opener final here. TMA is going to be there tomorrow morning. They're going to have a boatload of guests. Sounds like Chaim Bloom's going to be on with them. They will also have the director of the business operations on with them tomorrow morning.
Maybe Ali Marlal?
Maybe.
David Eckstein, I think, is
David Eckstein also joining them tomorrow.
Maybe Ali Marlal?
Be sure to tune in. TLR, I think, is a possibility as well.
Two managers on one show?
We were supposed to have Ollie today.
Oh, what happened, buddy?
I don't know.
Did you get kicked to
I'll
the
let
curb?
you know when I hear from him.
You just kicked to the curb? Ollie, if you're out there, you're going to make Brandon cry later today.
Well, he's still got 20 minutes, so he could respond at any point.
He's going to call it at 1:55. All right, we're taking over the fast lane.
So we'll be out there tomorrow. TMA will be out there tomorrow. We are hoping to be joined by Bill DeWitt III. Also, Derek Gould will join us as well. So that is all brought to you by Rawlings. Visit the Rawlings Experience in Westport Plaza for everything baseball, softball, and to be considered one of the finest in the field. And it's brought to you by Budweiser. Cardinals fans, this Bud's for you. Remember to drink responsibly. All right, let's dive into some NFL quick hitters. I've got a couple of things I want to get off my chest.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, your Travis Kelce's 3-year deal. What the hell, man?
First of all, I would like to talk about T-Bone's guy.
Who's your guy, T-Bone?
What is going on with Puka? Is he okay? I'm actually like half joking, but kind of serious.
I'm kind of disassociating from Puka.
Well, you're disassociating from the Rams being good then. Did he bite somebody?
Allegedly.
Important to put out there.
He's being sued by this woman who is alleging that he said an anti-Semitic comment and then bit her. And she allegedly has a picture of the bite marks. I mean, it doesn't look great, but I don't know. It just feels like over the last calendar year, really over the last 6 months, there's been a lot of stuff with Puka. And somebody just needs to tell him, like, yo, chill out. You are about to make $40 million a year, and all you have to do is not screw this up. Again, all of this is alleged. We don't know what really happened in this situation. Maybe, like, his lawyer has come out and said this is all cash grab. So maybe nothing happened here. But, man, there's been a lot of stuff surrounding you. Could you please just chill? Just go work out, hang out. And a year from now, you will be not only rich, you will be wealthy. Your children's children will never have to worry about money if you can just take care of yourself and stay out of trouble and figure this thing out off of the field. Because on the field, you're a remarkable football player, but this dude has got to chill, man. He's going to mess up his own money if he doesn't relax.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you there. I mean, I'm hoping Sean McVay, Les Snead will have a conversation with him because you're right. He is going to be up to beat JSN's contract. Like, that is one of the tasks that is at the hand of the Rams. But if you're the Rams, do you feel good about handing that contract out right now? There's too many weird situations that keep popping up. So I wonder, is kind of my theory of, I wonder if this is why they were in on A.J. Brown. I wonder if they're seriously reconsidering an idea of an extension for Puka Nacua. Just on the field by itself, he is a stud. He's one of the best receivers, if not the best receiver in the NFL.
How many years does he have before he'd need to get an extension?
One more. But they can do the franchise tag, too.
But
That's
if
the
he's
other thing.
And I'm only asking
2 years
this
of that.
because it's a dumb move in terms of on field. But if you're worried about him being a problem and you're not going to re-sign him because he's a problem, wouldn't you include him in a trade to go get somebody else?
Not right now. You don't have to right now. If you think that he's like...
But how much does your team suffer if he's a problem and he's not available this year?
It doesn't seem like he's been a problem to that degree, though.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where, like, these things eventually start to add up, and it just becomes a headache, especially if you're the
And I can tell you, McVay
GM.
was not pleased, and it was different, but it was the tweeting out about the refs during
right after the Seattle game, right?
Yeah, Seattle game during the regular season.
mean, like,
and McVay was not thrilled at the podium to be blindsided by it.
Furious. He walked off the podium.
Yeah.
I just mean by availability is the best ability, and if this guy's going to be having these types of off-field problems and he's not available, then there's no chance for the Rams to be competitive.
Yeah, so far it hasn't been that. It has not been a thing where he's like not available.
Totally.
It's just an annoyance.
Yeah.
And when you constantly are being asked questions about this, whether your teammates, coaches, or the general manager, it's just annoying. And eventually that becomes one of those things where you say, do we want this? Do we want to deal with this for the next 5 years? Because if you're going to sign him, you're going to be tied to him for a really long time. There's going to be guaranteed money going into like year 4 and 5. I think they'll eventually do it. And my guess is somebody will sit Puka down and be like, hey, you got to stop. You've just got to take yourself out of the headlines for a little bit. All right. Like, just relax for the next year. Can you just do nothing? Just eat, sleep, and breathe football. If you can do that, you're going to be the richest non-quarterback in the NFL. That sounds pretty great, right? Like, let's go on this path together to get you there. I think somebody will do that, but man, it's been a really weird few months for Puka Nacua for sure. All right, the other thing that I wanted to get to. Have you guys seen the Dan Orlovsky stuff?
Yeah.
I have not.
So Dan Orlovsky has said repeatedly, Ty Simpson is the best quarterback in this draft.
Yeah, I have seen that.
He was on yesterday.
Did something get worse?
With Pat McAfee, and McAfee basically stopped him in his tracks a number of different times and said, Dan, stop it. This is stupid. Like, stop. He's not the best quarterback in the draft, blah, blah. It's a good segment if you're interested in going to watch it. I am not here to argue that Ty Simpson is the best quarterback in this draft. I don't believe it. I think that the best quarterback is Mendoza. Like, we saw that all year long.
The guy that won the national championship. Yeah, I'd say so.
I'm not positive of that. I have no idea who's going to be the best quarterback in this draft long term. No clue. Because we're really bad at projecting these things, man. A few years ago, Bryce Young seemed to be the resounding, like, every consensus #1 quarterback in the class. Guess what? He's average at best. C.J. Stroud went after him, and then right after him was the guy that I loved, and Anthony Richardson. He stinks. The Colts can't wait to get rid of him. So we have seen this repeatedly, where the guy that is the consensus #1 quarterback is not actually the best guy, and it very well could be. He was in an unbelievable system with great weapons that were able to put together, you know, the best quarterback year out of this class. I just think sometimes we take this a little too far with the criticism of guys that are willing to go against the grain. I would not argue in favor of Ty Simpson, but I think it's a fine argument to have. Ty Simpson was awesome. You guys remember that Mizzou game? He was unbelievable in that game. He was the difference.
Oh, the Mizzou
defense was awesome this year.
No,
if you would have said the Bama defense looked good against Mizzou, I would have said,
they had one of the worst running games in all of college football this year at Alabama. Their offensive line was atrocious, and their wide receivers forgot how to catch the ball for half of the year. Ryan Williams came off of this incredible freshman year, and last year he stunk. He couldn't concentrate to save his life. So I don't know, man. I think that the criticism of Dan Orlovsky for this take has just gone way over the top. I also think Dan Orlovsky's a little over the top with it, but we don't know. We have no idea who's going to be the best quarterback to come out of this.
To be fair, the first time I heard him say it, which was on First Take, not on McAfee's show, I thought it was one of those classic, you got to know what you're watching in First Take, which is, hey, somebody's got to take the opposite side, and Orlovsky drew the short straw. But apparently he actually does believe it.
Yeah, which is fine.
Good for him if he does. Look, man, I'm still waiting for Mac Jones to win his first Super Bowl out of that draft class.
I'm still waiting for Nolan Gorman to hit 40 home runs.
Oh,
so sometimes
too.
you just stick to it, man.
I'm waiting for Thomas to take that next step. So, you know, things can happen.
I just think, like, this idea that you can't have a differing opinion on the NFL draft, which is such a crapshoot, is crazy to me.
Yeah, like, think about it.
It's like getting cancel cultured, and trust me, like,
Whoa, no politics.
And like, the idea that we need to be like, yeah, Dan Orlovsky is doing this just to be.
But here's the
thing. How many people said Brock Purdy was going to be the next star quarterback as Mr. Irrelevant?
And I'm not disagreeing with anything you guys are saying. I'm just looking at it from the other angle here. He is a former quarterback in the NFL, and he's supposed to be breaking down quarterbacks. And I think there's a ton of other people.
That's fine. I think he believes this. And it's okay to think that Ty Simpson's better. He might be.
It's absolutely okay to think that. But I think a lot of people are like, dude, there's no way that's possible. And all of the people.
Why?
What? Stop it. Stop getting angry. All of the people that might be thinking Ty Simpson is the worst of the two, it could be proven wrong. And Dan Orlovsky's right. But, like, the outside perspective is Mendoza just won a national championship. How could you even believe that this is possible?
And I think that's unfair.
Yeah, Bryce Young won a national championship.
Yeah.
Tua won a national
J.J. McCarthy won a national championship.
Went third. Drake May was the MVP this year. He was the third quarterback selected in his own draft. Now, I think the other two guys are good. Caleb Williams is good. Jaden Daniels is good. That's the other piece of this. Mendoza might end up being good, and Simpson could still be better. Simpson might end up being a top 10 guy in the NFL. So that's my frustration with all of this is I don't think you need to shout somebody down just because, you know, they have a difference of opinion from what the consensus is. It's okay to disagree on this stuff, man. That's part of what makes sports so great is we just don't know. Tua Tagovailoa was drafted ahead of Justin Herbert.
Ouch.
We're wrong on this stuff all the time. I mean, all the time. We saw a team take Daniel Jones 6th overall.
We saw Zach Wilson go 2nd overall.
And I'm supposed to believe that we know what we're doing. Josh
49ers.
Allen went behind Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. Josh Allen.
The 49ers franchise quarterback was the guy that they took with the last pick in the draft. Let's not forget, like a year prior, they traded multiple picks to draft Trey Lance, who I think started a total of 2 games for him.
Mitchell
And
Trubisky
Shanahan was
went
like, I'm out.
2nd. Patrick Mahomes then went 10th.
Oh, there it is.
They got that one right.
We're wrong all the time.
I just want
stuff.
you to remember what you're saying here. So the next time you get mad at me or T-Bone when we have a differing opinion of yours and you keep yelling at us.
Yeah, like when I think Baez should make the opening day roster.
When I think
I don't need
Velasquez
to be yelled at, Brandon.
should have been on over for me. And I don't need to be told why I'm wrong and you're right.
That's fair. I should probably take my own words.
Yeah. Easy over there, McAfee.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN from Splashback Deuce. So you're shouting down, someone shouting down, someone down. Is this like a wine inception?
Let's not talk Inception, man. That movie still confuses me.
First of all, fair criticism. Second of all, I just think it's okay to have a differing of opinion. Like if two different people see things differently, that's great. Somebody else says you're wrong quite a bit. Absolutely. That's the whole idea of this show is that
you're wrong.
Yeah, more or less.
Hold on. No, we're better than that.
We'll give you away a pair of tickets to the Battlehawks home opener here on 101 ESPN. Hey, alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. I screwed up.
What happened?
No, man. We're always right.
Hey, you're not ever
We
wrong.
don't make mistakes.
Apparently, we don't have paddle hooks today.
Are you kidding me? I was going to be Texter 101.
So you were great today, Alex. You got us Paul Bissonnette. T-Bone was excellent today as well. He put together a rundown.
Yeah.
I screwed up everything.
Yeah, I mean.
Everything. I was supposed to get Ollie Marmol. He hasn't responded to me
I
all
got
day.
BD3 tomorrow.
Yep. You did great there.
Yesterday.
And Paul Bissonnette.
And might have Brendan Shanahan on Friday if he responds.
I heard, by the way, you can win Battlehawk tickets on the website, 101ESPN.com.
Great.
What
That's
about
the way
on
to
the
do
app?
it. 101ESPN.com. Free 101
And on the
ESPN app
app.
is sponsored
On
to you
the
by
app.
Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. If you missed anything from the show, check out the podcast page.
Yeah.
That's sponsored by.
Schaefer Door Company.
You can always check us out on YouTube as well, youtube.com/101ESPN STL. And Alex, what can they find on the Last Minute Blues podcast
Boy,
today?
we talked about that brawl last night by Otto Stenberg. I'll call it a brawl. We talked about how the Blues at what? You got a problem with the brawl? Actually, Donnie lost his mind on Tom Wilson, and I kind of played the level head on that one.
I had a bigger problem with Pierre-Luc Dubois last
We
night.
talked about that as well, but we talked about them trying to lay a foundation. We talked about if any of those burned bridges from the deadline will carry over, and Donnie's got a new nickname for Jimmy Snuggerud.
Oh, boy.
What is it?
I'm not.
The Snugginator? That's not bad.
Do you feel good about that?
That was
That was
awful.
terrible.
I mean, I had to come up with something on the fly. So
Well, you got to be better than that.
better than Shorshenko.
No, that was an incredible nickname. That still will live in infamy.
You guys excited for tomorrow? We'll be down at Ballpark Village for opening day. T-Bone, are you going?
I am going. I'm going as a fan. I will be with my parents and uncle in attendance. First time my parents have been to an opening day.
That's cool. I mean, regardless of what the team is, opening day's cool in St. Louis. It'll be a lot of fun. We're excited to have Bill DeWitt III on the show. We'll have Derek Gould stopping by. We'll be broadcasting over at Ballpark Village. So if you want to come by, say hello, please do so. We'll be at the Budweiser Brew House, right? We'll be on the stage over there.
Yep.
So looking forward to getting over there. Alex, are you excited for opening day?
Yeah, I always am excited for opening day. Even if the team's bad, it's still kind of a tradition that I've grown up with. So, and I'm actually, luckily there's a Blues home game tomorrow night. So because typically there's a road game, so I have to leave and then come back to the station. There's not. So I think I'm going to stay downtown for a couple of hours before I got to go over to Enterprise.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm just excited baseball's back. I don't think the team's going to be particularly good,
No,
but
it'll be fine.
I'm still excited for baseball.
Post-April.
You know, you only get so many of these while we're here, and
what does that mean?
enjoy this one.
What does that mean?
Hey, man, we've all got an expiration date on this thing that we call life.
Did you take your meds earlier today?
It did. That's why I'm not freaking out about
okay,
it.
good. I thought you meant like when the team gets moved out, and I'm like, okay, well, let's not talk about that.
No.
Just because your
He's
Royals were
Alex,
bad
that's
for so
T-Bone, I'm
long.
BK. Looking forward to talking to you guys tomorrow from Ballpark Village for opening day. We'll have BD3. We'll have Derek Gould. The TMA is going to have basically everybody else that's associated with the Cardinals. So we'll talk to you then. The Fast Lane's next here on 101 ESPN.